because
Yeah.
you didn't share it everywhere, and you've got a lot more places.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course I will. All right. Boom. There it is there. Okay. We're coming along. Okay. We're live on Facebook. We got more of our customers and guests coming in. Tonight's going to be a fun show. I will probably go ahead and kick off, and we will just play the intro real quick, and then we'll be bringing in Nathaniel and Carrie Bartholomew. Got a Republican, we got a Democrat head to head, talking about the exciting degradation of our country. Anyways, here we go.
From the Great Basin to the Rockies to the four corners of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, this is KMMU Main Street Media Utah, coming to you live. You can find us on Rumble, YouTube, X, Facebook, and our website, kmmu.org. Please join our hosts, Jared and Holly, for Political Head Trauma, where if Head Trauma had a podcast, it would be just like this. Take it away, Jared and Holly.
Humana.
All right. So we're back on. I'm going to be doing some sharing, but right here, right now, I'm going to start pulling people in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Political Head Trauma, our Friday night show. We are very excited for this show tonight. Jared is way excited.
Well,
I haven't seen you this happy in a long time.
I'm not
I don't know
excited,
if it was the
happy.
gun range last week or if it was the content we're going to cover right now.
It's an interesting snapshot into society right now.
Yeah.
And it's good. We've got we've got Nathaniel Woodward on. He is he of course ran for Congress on the Democrat Party. Right? Congress, right? Ran for Congress. Carrie Bartholomew on. She ran for a couple things, but the latest one was school district, wasn't it?
State school board. Mm-hmm.
Yep, state school board. Yeah, see, I don't know what things are. And then we got Katie Adams Anderton, and she is currently running for the Democrat secretary for the state.
Yep.
Is that how you say it? Secretary of the Democrat Party.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to police what you want to call it. You know, it's secretary of the state. No,
don't let the other Democrats find out you're not going to police my words. No,
Democrat state leadership position.
Yes, but
only the hardest job in the party, being secretary.
It is honest. Like people don't realize how much power or duties a secretary has and a treasurer. Like those are the two places so hard to fill positions.
Right.
You're like Sidious to the Palpatine.
Yeah, a little bit maybe. You know. I don't
Anyways, so now Nathaniel's on a short timeline, so I kind of want to kick off with him, but I want each one of you, when we first bring you on, to go ahead and go through your bona fides, you know, what you got going on, advertise yourself, whatever you got going on. But you know, tonight, of course, I want to talk about this. There's lots to talk about, and we'll get to them throughout the night. We're going to talk about World War III kicking off in Pakistan and India, obviously. We got a new pope. He's from Chicago. Maybe he's a gangster. Maybe he carries a ball bat and puts horse heads in beds. Who knows? But we're going to talk about that. But tonight, I want my main focus to be on like this cultural snapshot that is the give, send, go. I think give, send, go is well-meaning in what they do, but it is not being used that way. So we'll just take it away from there. Nathaniel, let's have you jump on here and give us your go on that.
Well, wait, are you going to just describe exactly where the discussion is beginning and what you're talking about?
I kind of want to let them do it because I'm sure they're all smarter than I am on it.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let's dispel that right away. Because that term, that fundraising platform, I'd only tangentially heard about it in passing. And so I before today, I haven't been terribly familiar with the controversy around it. But
well, you know, I can give a background real quick as to where it came from. Is it came to compete with GoFundMe, where GoFundMe tended to have a political bias and a pro-government bias, and it was used abhorrently in Canada, and that's when Give Send Go popped up. And so it's blank. Like they don't. The only thing they won't support is abortions. Pretty much, that's like their only limit. And well, you obviously can't like donate money so I can go kill someone. But
well, and they found there's, for fraudulence, they don't want you to commit fraud. And so if you are somebody that has set up a Give Send Go or something and they discover that you are scamming people, they'll put an end to it. But to monitor it, I think that the other one, not Give Send Go, but the GoFundMe, I believe they have taken down some worthy fundraising efforts, but have found they're more political, and they'll say, well, this isn't good for our platform, or they get enough complaints about it and they see it as a reason to pull certain things down. So they tend to be more monitoring what's on their platform, it seems.
And I could imagine, sorry to step in, I could imagine doing like campaign stuff, because there's so many laws around the requirements to donate for political campaigns that, like, if their business model was like, hey, we just don't want to deal with that heat and that potential litigation, I completely understand them not wanting to do that.
Yeah, I get, and if I was running a campaign, I wouldn't want to go through one of those, because I imagine when you get involved with the government wanting to poke through your stuff, I imagine that gets messy.
Yeah.
But let's have it. Nathaniel, who are you? What you got going on?
Oh, that's what my therapist says. Session. I mean, do I need to lay down for this?
Just put your feet up.
Yeah. People, I mean, if I'm going to describe my CV, I'm a country lawyer and I teach. And that's all I really care to be. And so I'm really nothing special other than I'm a product of a union coal mining household. And so I value hard work, and I value real solutions, and I value looking at the problem as it exists, not as I've told it exists. And so, looking at an issue like this, it sounds almost, a copy and paste job of almost any other hot topic issue we're coming across. And so it's difficult to weigh in exactly on a part of this issue, because, do I disagree that this platform should be funding things I may have disagreements with? Is it whether I agree or not, whether a platform like this should even be allowed to exist? Because there's answers, and I tend to go all the way down to the base of this, saying, if I'm being asked, should this content or should this platform exist, I'm going to say yes. I think that it's a direct product, a result of our market system, that one company was not adhering to some market demand, and so another person came in and filled the niche, and that's the basis, I think, of our economy. Now, whether I agree with the niche, that's another question. I have personal views about whether they're funding Kyle Rittenhouse's defense. And I can have those views, like, do I agree with Kyle Rittenhouse? No. But do I agree that he should have a defense? Yes, that's my job. Do I think it's effective? It's a good use of your money to donate to? No, I think it's stupid. Because, as a trial attorney, maybe I'm just naive, but I've never seen a trial of that magnitude affected by how much money after a certain threshold was poured into it. And so, most attorneys, the way things are trials are handled is absurd. The fact that, here in Utah, if you're going to get divorced, you're going to spend between $5,000 and $10,000 on an attorney through mediation, where in my view, I don't see the point of having an attorney until after mediation. I don't see what we actually do. And so I think we're a waste of money.
Can I just sidetrack you real quick? In a divorce in Utah, can you schedule mediation without having an attorney first?
Oh, for sure. You go on OCAP. The state has a system where you can fill out your own divorce papers. It'll guide you through it. It's like doing TurboTax.
You have to just agree
your own
with your spouse.
You can do or you can do modifications to custody and alimony, all sorts on there. You can do landlord-tenant stuff on there. It is as good in 99% of the cases I've seen as an attorney would be. there are the unique cases. If you've got a big estate, you've got a big scary situation, you've got safety concerns. Okay, yeah, let's have an attorney with the know-how. But up until that, so that's where people are donating money on GoFundMe for legal defenses. I think are stupid, and so. Well, I have a hard time biting into this controversy other than there's people, saying horrible, horrible things on there about each other. One side saying, and so on the general spectrum, we call it the left, saying, oh, I hate whites, or I hate guns, and I hate everyone that has them, and I don't want to make threats against them. And then what's perceived as the right will come back and say something equally as offensive to that subjective audience. That's why I'm seeing that's kind of a carbon copy of the other issues we're seeing, because they bring up the border crisis. And if you look at the comments online, it devolves into the same type of comments. And so I just think it's another symptom of the general sickness in our country.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like I've got an opinion on it. It seems like we peaked in the 90s and I think through the degradation of our culture of George Bush II, and then Obama leaning heavy into kind of race communications, I think a race war has been kicked off, and it's just been a simmering war, but I feel like there is one.
And we can't deny that rage bait is a very profitable industry right now online. There are TikTokers who make ridiculous money just posting rage bait, and for you and I to and if you don't know at home, just by commenting that you think this is stupid or that this shouldn't be allowed, or just engaging with the post at all, just puts money in their pocket. So the more engagement they get, even if it's not good, the more money they make, and they know that.
So for all you people out there
right now where people actually love it. They love to say the thing that's going to get you going, and it will get attention. Even bad attention is good attention.
Well, and for everyone out there right now listening, and you want to yell at me, please do. I want to get some of that money.
Yeah. Make sure you yell at him in a comment.
But anyways,
and let's talk Star Wars then. We get you lots of views here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the new Star Wars sucks.
Really quickly,
let me have it.
Just so everyone knows, on the panel tonight, we have Nathaniel Woodward, we have Katie Adams-Anderton, and we have Carrie Bartholomew, who is back. And I just saw her last night at another event. So good to see you, Carrie.
And we've got both political parties here, and the third weirdo, the independent guy,
the independent anarchist.
Yeah.
Or you say independent or libertarian?
I ain't even signed up for them yet. They're too. They libertarians.
Libertarian conventions are the best. I go watch them for kicks and giggles.
How crazy is the libertarians? Talk about people. They're the ones to watch. Every 4 years, they swing the opposite of what they were.
Right. And the crazy thing is with them too, with the Libertarian Party, is like the Democrats say, we're a big tent. We ain't got nothing on the libertarians. Like, I'm sorry. They're the true definition of a big tent party. It is bananas.
Well, I mean,
they just can't organize.
Autism has to go somewhere, and that's where it goes.
And now we've lost the show.
No, it's true. That's where they go.
You have been officially canceled. The FCC has.
But yeah. So Nathaniel, you were talking. You mentioned it's kind of a weird outgrowth of that capitalism. And do I like it for criminal defense? Obviously, because the state comes at you with everybody's money and unlimited time and unlimited funds. And you've got almost no defense. And I don't care if the state wants to wrap you up, they will, without a doubt, wrap you up. I mean, look at what they did in the Rittenhouse, just to go back to that, where the prosecutors corrupted the evidence that they gave to the defense. That's just insane. Those prosecutors honestly should have spent at least a night in jail over that.
Well, and we have a number of people of color that we have found that they get locked up and they'll take plea bargains because they know they can't imagine paying for an attorney. And they just get the standard defense attorney and they feel like they want to fight back or whatever, and they don't think their chances of winning are high. An opportunity to, hey, tell my story. This is what's happening. Help me defend myself. I mean, this is a niche market that we needed. And I'm a person who has benefited from GoFundMe because when I lost my home in a fire, the community reached out and they needed a way to get money to my family. And it was the most incredible thing to ease my stress and fear. And a lot of people going through something, they don't know what they need ever. And it's easy for those of us that want to help them, but don't want to push or, be at their doorstep and be in the way. It's an easy way to throw $25 their way or 50 or whatever and just say, hey, I'm helping. Because especially in America and especially in Utah, we have a service-oriented populace and they want to help. I think that markets like GoFundMe and Give, Send, Go give people that extra help. In a defense, I could see if I feel like for Kyle Rittenhouse, if I feel like a kid is getting, if from what I see, I mean, of course you don't know the details of the case until the trial starts. But if you see a child or a guy who defends himself with a firearm in the situation he was in, people are going to draw the line and take sides. That's just how we are as human beings. But as a pro gun supporter and somebody who believes in self-defense as a right and not a privilege, it's a right I have as a human being, I am going to pay a special attention to that. And I'm also going to maybe want to help. And I don't want to go through a gun lobby. I want to go right to the source because he may not just need defense. He may need whatever. He may need a suit for court. And so I think that it's because you don't have all the details of the case. I think it's not smart per se to donate on someone's behalf in a trial, but I understand why people do it.
Oh yeah. I like the fact that these sites exist shows a characteristic of humanity that we have a desire to help. Yeah. Now, whether we want to help things that we could, determine good or bad, that's the second tier of that analysis. But I like the initial, we have an impulse to help things. Now, what that might be, we can have conversations about that, but that's kind of where I think, and where Jared is getting at, is that those conversations we need to chill and have better language towards each other and expressing there's better ways to be venomous. I promise. Watch Downton Abbey. I mean, there is perfect ways to be horrible to each other.
But there's not easier.
What can make people mad on
is
that?
Behind a screen on a computer. People find it so easy to be absolutely toxic when they're online, but to your face, they don't have that same urge. I mean, unless they're like cuckoo.
I wish I had that self-preservation instinct. I don't. I'm just as horrible in person.
They say everybody hates a lawyer until they need one.
Hold on. Nathaniel is one of the most decent human beings I've ever chatted with. I'm just going to throw that out there now. He's very amicable. He's friendly. He's funny. So
he hasn't forgotten where he came from, which that's like the thing about him I appreciate the most, is you meet these lawyers sometimes and they forget that mom and dad worked in the coal mine or the steel mine, but you haven't forgotten where you came from. I appreciate that.
That's of course, I still live in that small town, so I don't get to forget.
Well, and also he's all lawyers are good at this. They're all very self-deprecating.
Deprecating.
I'm not going to correct.
I don't know. If someone correct me on that, I don't know how to talk, but they all harass themselves, and they're all real good at that. And I think that's a sign of intelligence, and also lawyers often their job has a little sneakiness in it when they're in there litigating.
Here's the sneakiness I like about these Kyle Rittenhouse campaigns and stuff. Why I like there's a fundraiser for it, because it draws attention to the issue. It's going to draw outrage on the side that disagrees with it. They're going to reach out, and the prosecution doesn't need funded. Like Jared said, we all funded abundantly with our taxes. What they're going to find are the GoFundMe for the victims' families. These people who, they lost someone. The circumstances, no matter what it is, they suck. And so people donating to Kyle Rittenhouse is going to spark the outrage. It's going to get people to donate to these victims' families. And bad situation gets a little better. I mean, money doesn't fix anything, but it's what we got. And so, there's a sneaky lawyer way I can, you explain that to a client, like the justice is going to come from the back door.
Right. Well, let's see, Carrie, you, I know you've probably followed this a bit you're very political and you're an educator and, you're a Black woman living in Utah. And so I know there's a handful at least, right, of others.
One of three.
They claim that we don't have many, but you're very engaged both politically and personally. And you are such you are a woman of service. You're also a teacher, and you are a phenomenal person all the way around. And I know you are right wing, Republican. Right. And so give us
I think I'd rather call myself a conservative than a Republican.
Yeah, that's fair.
Our big tent is a hot mess, in my opinion. So we're just as crazy as the other side in different ways.
Please don't tell that to Katie, because she's on the other side, and they will love it if we're in a big fight.
I don't most of the time when I come on this show and you tell me the mess that's going on in your party, I'm like, no one else can see that, but sure, that's what baffles me.
Oh no, it's a mess for sure, because we're human beings, and the thing about conservatives that Democrats get right and Republicans get wrong, is that Democrats value individuality, sort of, because there's also you have to march in lockstep, right? Because if you don't, you get kicked out. But we have the same thing going on. The problem is that our principles are that we believe in the individual. And so when you have a ton of people who believe in the individual, and the individual has a right to say and do whatever, it doesn't work very well when you're trying to unite and get organized. So, okay. So, as far as the gifts, and for me, it always comes down to the heart. And despite the fact that I'm biracial, I have a son who passes for white. And
he passes for Irish.
He does.
I've seen that kid.
He does. So today that'd be Muslim, right? So I'll go there. Yes, I will. Okay.
Shots were fired.
Oh, wow.
All right. So I'm watching all of this, okay? And I'm watching this from a heart viewpoint, and I'm watching this as a mother of a 17-year-old. That's what I saw. I saw two 17-year-olds and one 17-year-old. This is restorative justice, and that's what I watched. I watched a kid who stabs another kid in the heart, turns around, walks over to the cops, and goes, "I'm free, right?" I mean, this was self-defense, which is restorative justice when you really get down to what restorative justice is. So not only am I an educator, but I'm an educator of adults. I am the leader of Moms for America in Utah. And so restorative justice is this idea, how it plays out, not the way it was designed, but the way that it plays out, is that many times Black and brown people are not held accountable. And that kid did not expect to be held accountable, and no one did in his community. So he was able to walk over to the police. He was able to have his fees cut down. And they said, "Oh, well, he needs a lower fee." Why does he need a lower fee? Let's be honest. They think they want the public to believe because he's Black. Well, he actually comes from an upper middle class family to begin with, but then they need to go buy a $900,000 a month. 900,000. I don't want to get my numbers wrong, but a more expensive home and a car and to start a website with shirts that say "Don't touch our boy" immediately before the other kids in the ground.
I do want to point out, from my understanding, the house and the vehicle they had previously. The vehicle they had previously, the house they moved into,
and they're renting it.
They're renting the house because. But
for safety,
their house is cheaper than the house they were living in when the circumstance happened.
Okay.
So they didn't get an upgrade, but there is a point of
perception.
There is a point when you say that at this point in time, and it's the exact opposite of what it was in like the 60s and 70s. At this point in time, someone's melanin can allow them certain leeway.
The things that were allowed to be said now, and here's the place where I just find it the ugliest thing I've seen, is that the things that were allowed to be said, if you're not celebrating a bleach demon being destroyed, then you aren't a real Black person. That's the kind of things that was being said in Black circles, and I find that horrifying.
It is. But we've also got on the other side, we've got that lady in Minneapolis. Is that where it was?
We do, which is what I've been fighting for the last 4 years, is her name's Shiloh. And no, I don't, is she in Minneapolis?
I don't, what, Philadelphia?
I feel like she's in the UK.
No, she's in the United States.
Okay.
But she's using the N-word and cursing out a little, a 10-year-old or whatever.
I've heard it's 5 and autistic, but I won't believe anything until I actually see the evidence.
Regardless,
the hatred and also the boiling point, because when you tell people, since not really George Floyd, since before George Floyd, when we tell people that you are evil, you are the problem, when Ilhan Omar gets on and says that America needs to fear the white man, at some point, people are going to get tired in that boiling point. I'm watching friends that I've sat with and had conversations with suddenly become the most anti-Black people, because this is allowed to explode. And as you're watching this man this boy make a ton of money, and he says on his Give Some Go, I don't know, we don't have all the facts, I think, in terms of his house and his car. I think that you can easily go, I want a new car because I'm getting all of this money next week. You can do that. But I don't know.
I think it'd be a bad idea to spend any of that before you're done with the trial. If there's money left over, it's yours, spend it. But like I said,
ICE has gotten so big.
He's going up against
lawyers that are going to knock down their door to try to defend this kid pro bono.
And you've still got to hire. You've got to hire professionals to come in and testify as to
forensics,
the type of knife, and everything else.
Why? When he turned around and said, "Yeah, I did it."
It's still
why is he not in jail the same way that somebody else would be in jail for 4 years without a fair trial?
Well, he's a self-defense claim is what he's running on in his defense, and self-defense. I mean, they've got the video, they've got witness statements. I think making this a big giant case is by design. I mean, you never know what case is going to be huge or what's going to start the nation or go viral. But
next round of BLM fires and riots.
Yeah, people are at their boiling point and they're waiting for that next thing. And so here it is. It's got a life of its own, and something that may have been pretty cut and dry is now turned into a media spectacle, and all the American people are chiming in. But even, if it's a self-defense case, he could be released on bond until the trial. He's pled not guilty. Isn't that correct? For self-defense?
I believe he pled. He came in and said, I did it. That was the first thing that he said. He went to the cops and he said, yep, I'm guilty. But
that's still all messy. I don't know if he's been arraigned yet, but I don't want to boil down to in the guilt of Carmelo Anthony or even the guilt of this lady. What I want to talk about is how this give, send, go, the message board on it. When someone sends $1, they leave a message, and on both sides, some of them are vile.
Yes.
And that's the part.
But we've given an excuse. We've said one side can say whatever the heck they want to for years. I've watched it. I've got students who use the N-word.
High school boys right now are bad about using it.
But a lot of them use it to be quote unquote funny. They use it with each other.
Yes,
I heard a couple of years ago, kids calling, like the black kid calling himself a monkey. And I thought that was the most horrendous thing, that a kid would call himself that, but they're calling themselves that to lighten the air. Because they're just like, parents Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know who taught my kids that word? Rap music.
Yes.
Oh,
And it is part of their culture. And the Black culture, they call each other that as a term of endearment or not. It's like, here we've got this word that no one can say but the other side. And yet the other side is using it often and then gets angry when a young kid is singing the lyrics to a song, and then they get canceled because they sang the lyrics as they were.
And again, I don't want to get into the judgment. What I want to look at is, did we have it so good in the 90s that and then we went through kind of a weird, the early 2000s have been kind of weird. I mean, let's face it.
Right.
From the Republicans saying we've got to have creationism taught in biology to Democrats, no offense, you guys, but you don't want 6'4" Tom changing into Tammy and playing against the girls in soccer, right?
But that wasn't the early 2000s.
But we've had a pretty weird time. And as I look at it historically, this weird time seems to happen at every turn of the century. Humans become weird because we put a number there, I think. But
we have 24-hour media too, that the clickbait is so important to them. What's going to make people mad? Hearing that a 6-foot man has decided to transition to a woman and she wants to play sports. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things that they have found.
Well, it's not just that, but when you boil it down, it actually works because that 6-foot man goes in and wins.
Of course.
Sometimes.
There's one time they didn't, that weightlifting competition.
There's a couple times they haven't. Yeah, there's been a couple.
Well, I only know of one.
All sports are created.
The weightlifting, you had those. It kicked off. I remember it was 2014 when those two boys in Maryland said they were girls. They were high school sophomores, and they went in and not only won the track meet, but set the state records. And by doing that, they knocked two girls off of the roster to compete in regionals.
It happens all the time. But,
I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying they're not always winning.
I can only think of one time that it didn't, and that was that weightlifting.
Because sometimes male muscle tones aren't beneficial for the sport. You think about, like, if you put a man in that position in gymnastics, they ain't gonna win.
No,
I
want you after this. I want you to go watch males doing the floor routine, and you won't watch the females do it again the same. The males would smoke them. I'm telling you right now.
And that's what you're getting at, though, is the difference in our society over the course of what you're saying, too. And I think it has a lot to do with us being really in a good place. The world was, I mean, we have everything we could ever want as Americans. Even our poorest Americans are way wealthier than the poor that across, the ocean. And so we have it so good, which makes us get kind of, I remember the
debaucherous.
The study a guy did with rats where he created a utopia. And I don't know if you've seen this study, but he creates a utopia where all the rats have all the food they can eat, all the toys, all the water, gave them everything. And eventually everything was great. They were mating, they were creating babies and everything else. And then it slowly started to turn. They quit mating. They would kill each other to the death. It was like they didn't have anything to do. They didn't have to try. And it actually, they basically, in that utopia, they made themselves extinct.
So what is that? Hard men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. We are in the weakest of times. That would be my opinion. And coming from the 90s, coming from as a biracial woman, I didn't ever think about race. It wasn't really a thing. Like I was like a Spice Girl. That's what it was in the 90s. And coming into now and having,
Give me a minute. You're taking me back. They're coming back out on tour, guys. The Spice Girls are coming back. They're going to be like 60, hitting it hard.
That's something I never knew.
Four or 5 years ago, I went to, it was called the Mixtape Tour, and it was which is the one with the Donnie Wahlberg in it?
Backstreet Boys.
It was
Kids on the Block.
guys.
New Kids.
Yeah, it was those guys, Tiffany, Salt and Pepper,
Menudo.
No, they weren't there. That would have been
You're
Naughty by Nature.
Mayday. We're
Boys to Men.
crashing and burning right now.
I have no help in this because I was born in
All right, you just
child.
no help
You
whatsoever.
sweet summer child.
I am.
Anyways, go on.
Please go on.
Okay, so being biracial, even though I came from the circumstances that I come from, which we've talked about before, race was such a minor thing until 2020, when people literally started saying, I feel so bad for you. You don't understand your terrible circumstances. Let me educate you on these things. And watching that and knowing that comes, and for me, it came from many of my friends who went to Evergreen State College and were Democrats. Like
what, Evergreen? Where they popped off. That was kind of the kickoff to this modern era.
100% postmodernism. Yes, all of the things that we're facing.
The stuff that happened to Brett Weinstein.
So under Obama, did you not experience it then, or you were just too young?
No, I wasn't too young. I had a brand new baby. Before, when I first lived in Utah, the most racist thing I'd ever heard was, well, how can your son look like that when you're so dark? And actually, I'm pretty not. So, but that was the first thing that I'd heard that was racist. Now, since we've gotten permission to put people like me, which is a conservative Black woman, into a corner, now I hear all the time, who picked you, you house N-word? That is a pretty regular thing that I hear on BYU chats. So, so has the temperature, and so I've been working for 4 years to cool down the temperature. And as that pendulum swings, right? So as Donald Trump comes into office, and as he says we're going to get rid of DEI programs, and the pendulum swings, well then now I'm seeing people on the right come out and say, well, you're nothing but a DEI hire. Yeah. On the right, I'm hearing that now. And so, and yes, the left, sorry guys, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but the left has like been this way to me for years. As soon as I said, I'm not your victim, it became this. And that's what I see. I see a whole bunch of people who want collectivism this way or this way. And we've lost that middle ground. So I see the people supporting Shiloh. And there's a part of me that can say, look, if you've been taught that you're the toxic male poison of the world for years and years and years, I can see why you would say some of the things that you've said. Do I excuse it? No. But I feel really bad for you. I feel really bad for you, one, because you're, in my opinion, an ugly soul. But I also feel really bad for you because of what you've had to go through. I'm watching it. I'm working right now on equitable math curriculum and watching them say, for second graders, this is the axis that we're looking at. And here are the denominators. And by the way, these people are the victims. And this is the math that they're doing. And the police officers are the bad guys. And you're just sitting there going, why would you do this? It's intentional. And that is what I've been trying to fight. But I don't know how you fight it when a person knows that if you kill someone, you can become tomorrow's celebrity.
Well, and
just like that insurance guy.
Well, we've only got like 10 minutes left with Nathaniel. He's got to get off to some super special dinner. But I do want to let him clear this up. But I do want to say, I don't think that most of the people on the left who espouse those ideas do it knowing that they're causing a problem. I think they truly believe that.
But it's so racist.
Maybe their leaders don't.
In that skin.
I've boiled onto a conspiracy theory now that I think that George Soros was causing the trouble he caused to throw more money at USAID, because that money came back to him through USAID, and he got richer by throwing money into stuff that caused a low trust society, which he did. No one can argue. That's all he's been working for everywhere he's got his fingers at, is building low trust societies. But anyways, Nathaniel, closing remarks on this before you get out, and then we'll go on and keep the blood sport going.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm most outraged myself recently that the White House put out a false narrative about Star Wars the other day, saying that the left was the empire while Trump was wielding a freaking red lightsaber. You moron! Come on, do your basic lore. That upset me so much.
Oh, I love Star Wars.
And I want to lose everyone here. But
no, you're good. You're good.
I
Not gonna lose me.
Perspective here, because I've heard individual stories. I like hearing individual experiences, and as a member of the Democratic Party, I can't speak for us, but I do want to apologize that your experience was discounted. You were made to feel less than because your experience was different than. And that's total bull crap that happened to you. And I hope other Democrats can shape up so we don't lose good people like Harry. Because heaven knows we need as many good people in here. And I would say, to Jared's point, it's not a left or a right issue with speaking this vitriol and this hate. It's a person thing. And it affects people who have conservative views. It affects people who have liberal views. It affects people who have libertarian views. It affects everyone that has Star Wars fandom preferences. It's just kind of nature to debase, and when there's not that accountability of getting your teeth knocked out like in person, people will say horrible things. I calmly disagreed with an older person on Facebook not that long ago, and I just kept asking him, like, will you apply this logic to like your chosen candidate? And he wasn't liking that, and he got to the point of saying he hopes I go to Mexico and I get my head chopped off by the cartels because I believe in open borders or something that I didn't say. So it is a sickness affecting both sides. And how do we go about addressing that? I don't know if there's an answer other than we're kind of aging out of it. That demographic is dying off slowly or quicker and quicker. And this Gen Z, these Gen Alphas who were born into this internet, digital age fully, that know how to navigate it because it's all they know. I think it's their world, and we're just kind of tiptoeing through the ends of our existence and the beginning of theirs. So I think we're lost in this right now. They're the ones that are going to define this for us.
You're a ray of sunshine there.
Well,
yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, the incredible good that's come from, look at the GoFundMe pages that have affected the good things, just like Holly. I was, when my son passed away 11 years ago, there was a GoFundMe put together. I mean, I think we got like $1,000, but it paid for his little casket. And then we had a couple of $100. We drove down to San Diego and we stayed in Coronado with, me, my wife and our daughter. And we just kind of had a few days to be elsewhere. And so when we talk about, well, their kid died and then they went out and bought this, my judgment kind of ends at their kid died. What they do after that, I'm going to have so much grace with, because it breaks your brain. And if it causes you to go down the fraud route, I get it. It's a good defense, I think. It explains behavior, doesn't justify it. But after someone's kid dies, maybe I'm just broken in that way because I'm biased. But whatever they end up doing with that money, their kid died.
It's not the people where their child died that has the argument. It's the argument for the side the people are sending to the guy who killed their kid. Yeah.
And with Ashley's Law, if I did follow that at all, we got that passed this last year. I can't even calculate how much time I spent on that thing. But I mean, it's something as clear cut as Ashley's Law was, which was hold rape, rapists, convicted rapists, to the same standards of sentencing based on the mental age of their victim, not the chronological age. So if we got a 31-year-old who's got the mentality of a 3-year-old, well, that rapist should be charged as if they raped a 3-year-old. And so even that, as simple as that was, there were not just people on the internet who made horrible comments towards Paula, the mother of this Ashley, and towards me, but there were people elected in our Senate, in our state Senate here, who were not going to vote for this for very stupid reasons. And so I lose my composure a little bit. And that's where the coal miner in me comes out, is when a senator says, well, the fiscal note, and I use phrases my grandpa taught me. But that being said, it passed unanimously. The only person that didn't really vote for it was our own representative down here, Christine Watkins, who said she was in the bathroom, even though I was watching her on the floor. And so
maybe she wears adult diapers.
You think?
Did you see her do like a relaxing?
Okay, but please go on.
We have a tendency to attack those who offend our outrage, and I'm victim of that too. I have thought many dark things over that Star Wars poster in the White House for the last few days, but I get it. And Jared, you and I and Katie, our first meeting, we had this incredible conversation where Katie, really checked me there, saying like, listen, I understand you have this perspective, but you have not lived mine. And so that's, I've heard almost the opposite experience of an African American woman or in the Democratic Party in Utah as Carrie's, but that was her experience. Carrie's experience happened. Therefore, we need to address this because it does happen. And so if our party wants to grow, we need to recognize that and make amends and then still Carrie's loyalty back.
Okay, I just need to clarify that. I'm so sorry. I've never in my life for a second been a Democrat, nor will I ever be. I just want to be super clear about that. So no, I'm sorry. When I was 18 and aging out of foster care, a teacher told me that, you know what, you're Black and you're poor, you're a Democrat, they'll take care of you. And I thought, I don't want to be taken care of. I want to be able to have what I need to take care of myself. So I got to clarify that one.
So much that I love that. Don't join our party. You should remain a Republican, helping out.
I want to make you all independent so that you don't have partisan retardation, and
most of us are independent in the sense that we look for the best candidate for the position, but we base it on our platform, which is very easy to be. Our platform is such that it's easy to find candidates that follow that platform. It's holding them accountable when they don't.
Yep. But we've got
as a Democrat nominee for Congress, this is what I kept on my desk, this whole time, a why not coal button. And I can argue that from a Democratic pro-person standpoint. I can argue mining coal and burning coal and carbon in Emory County from a pro-environmental standpoint. And I've been able to do that because of my privilege, because of my skills and abilities in my party to be able to assert, like, you can't shut me up. It's going to take a lot of effort. And so, I've been trying to use
should anyone? No one should shut you up. The square is better.
Because if my ideas suck, I want to know why and make them better.
Right. And that's the thing. I would rather have a conversation with you and with Katie and hear what your perspective is, what your experience is, because I can either learn something, maybe teach something, and at least the number one thing is the information is there for everyone to discern. You're a likable person. You have lived a very good life. Katie's one of my favorite Democrats, actually, and she's one of the most fun and educationally pleasing person to talk to when I want to know something about the other side. And we've never had an argument or it's just because that's how it should be. And the event we went to last night, Carrie and I, it's called Braver Angels. And if you two aren't members of it, I highly recommend.
We all went to a Braver Angels thing. That's where I met Nathaniel.
To us, it's so great to sit down with people who disagree with you and to get your opinions out without judgment and also hear other people. That's what's lacking in this country. it's lacking at such a degree that if we're not fitting in the boxes that have been provided for us, I'm a woman, but I'm privileged because I'm white. Carrie is a Black woman and she gets to be in this box, and she's not privileged. She's a victim. And yet we're scratching to get out of these boxes because we're human and we're Americans. Right. And that's enough. So I hate for you ever to discount what your experience is, or because the white man is the most dangerous person now in the world, according to Elon Omar. And yet that's a box that you shouldn't have to be in. You're so much more than how you look. All of us are.
Hey, Nathaniel, real quick. I know you have to get out of here soon, but if people are down in, you're in Cedar City, right?
Price.
Or you're in Price. So if people are down that way, need to get a lawyer to help work up a will, or even want to throw a question at you, what kind of contact information, where do they find your office? And I wish you'd have sat in the cool part of his office, because you can see him on Facebook. Find him on Facebook. It's Than Woodward on Facebook. But he's got like dinosaur murals and got a skeleton that's been
he's a huge nerd too, obviously.
I'm a huge nerd. A plesiosaur after the model of the one I discovered a year and a half ago, if that's cool enough.
Nice. Heck yeah.
You discovered a plesiosaur?
Plesiosaur. A Loch Ness monster.
I love how you added that with, is that cool enough? That's great.
That is very cool. But how do people reach out and find you?
I don't advertise my services. I'm a handshake deal kind of person. So if you really want me, come find me. I don't have a website. I guess Facebook? No, I stay busy enough that I don't advertise my services, and I pick the cases I want, and I help the people I want. And if you really want to get in touch with me, go donate to the Sea Cave and Shelter in Moab, where I run a free legal clinic for victims of domestic violence. They could use a lot of money more than I could.
What's that called again? We should
put that. The Sea Cave and Shelter in Moab.
Sea Cave and Shelter.
Can you spell that for us?
SEEKHAVEN. And they facilitate this free clinic. I get to go down there once a month and spend a whole day working with not just domestic violence people, but I also partner with USARA to help people in recovery.
That's awesome. And the Sea Cave and Shelter is in Moab, you said?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it serves Grand, San Juan, and Emery counties.
That's that's great. We need to have a show with just you talking about that.
Oh,
I know we've had you on before, but I think that's something that, and mental health and recovery is so needed in this country, and needs, if we're going to do it, privatize people. If governments can't afford it, then we need people to really, step to the plate, and these type of businesses need to be created for people.
4 out of 5 Indigenous women experience violence or sexual violence in their life.
Wow.
4 out of 5. And if you've taken a statistics class, 4 out of 5 means 5 out of 5. And it is needed. And I'm the only attorney in this entire quadrant of the state that's doing this. And so, Shame, call the other attorneys. Don't call me. Call them up saying, hey, go donate time at Sea Cave. Woodward will get you in touch.
Are you planning on running for anything else in the future?
I announced my bid to run against Mike Kennedy in the 3rd district where I live. And so in about a year, we'll really ramp it up. I'm in pre-fundraising mode. I'm not going to run the last time I ran against Celeste Malloy. Excellent race for me. I got to prove the points I wanted to prove. I outperformed every other congressional Democratic candidate, and I spent $3,000.
Wow.
I didn't pay for any ads. I didn't knock on a single dang door. I was respectful. I debated. I attended events, and I talked straight, and it showed that sells as much as $50,000.
Why, just real quick, why do you think the Democrats have such low favor in Utah? Utah was a pretty big Democrat state 50 years ago. What do you think killed the Democrat Party in Utah?
The Republican media approach was better than the Democrats' media approach for this population. So they lost Carbon County because they ditched the workers for environmental regulations exclusively without putting things in place. So they passed environmental laws that help people in Sacramento, but killed people in Castledale. So yeah, we sacrificed people on the altar of progress, and we abandoned them for it, and darn right. And so as I try to build it back down here to the party we were, which is just a union of citizens, getting us all on the same page, and uniting against the issues we collectively see. I'm a big union guy, but I don't need a formal union. I can use a political party to achieve the same results.
Excellent.
Good message, yeah. And I think you're right. I think that was I think it was a lot of I think it started under Carter mostly, but a lot of his economic withdrawal from rural America. I think
and then Reagan's attack on the unions in 1980. It was a 1-2 punch. An opportunity was seen, and then Clinton didn't do anything to help that end of it. And so, yeah, we were forgotten. And so it serves our party right to lose those they felt weren't worth the media push. But yeah, I mean, they're the same folks. You know, you talk like you and I, we all talk, and we come to the same conclusion on most issues that affect potholes. We're on the same page. Foster care, I think we're all on the same page. You know, violence against women and children, we're on the same page.
Those aren't partisan issues at all.
Should never ever be. Those are the issues that matter. Those are the ones that because we fixed those. We're gonna get so good at fixing crap. We can fix the border crisis because we're on the same page. Let's fix potholes and work our way up.
Yeah. So I concur. I think we need to get the federal government out of small stuff. On the federal government shouldn't deal with anything that the state government has purview over. Unless the state government is being criminal.
Let's have a whole thing on federalism, but I do have to go to a chamber of
commerce. Yes, sir.
Hey, that's how fancy it gets in Carbon County.
All right, everyone. That's Nathaniel Woodward.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Good to see you again.
If you need to grab him, go find him. He's there in Price, grinding down there in central southernish Utah. I think everything south of Provo is considered southern Utah.
I love Price. It looks like a painting.
Yeah. All right, Nathaniel, thank you. And we'll be back at let's have Katie chime in on her thoughts on what she feels is going on with this.
There's so much. You know, my perspective, my dad is a Hispanic Jew, and he's a Mr. Farr Jew. So when I see things online when it's so hate-filled towards people, you know, my dad's just mixed. He's, you know, very American person of color. And it's so crazy to me to see the level of desire or complacency for hatred that I just don't understand, like how we got here entirely. I think for platforms like this that take money in, one of the biggest things you have to look at the platform and in itself is it's less it takes away less money from people fundraising than places like GoFundMe and that. And that's a little bit, you know what I mean? That's some of that is like the importance of the free market and having people have that, you know? But I don't know. It's so hard for me to see the level of hate speech, you know what I mean? Just so loud. And I think for me growing up where I did in Pennsylvania, like the Klan was there, you know what I mean? And I got called a half-breed all the time. All the time. I got called a half-breed because my mom was white. Well, my dad's part black and Jew. So his dad was part black and his mom's an Italian Jew.
Oh, I thought you said it was Hispanic. I'm so sorry.
It's a Hispanic
Jew. Sephardic. It's a big old history. It's probably what
it's very long.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Spaniards fought for what was it, a 450 to 500 year war to take Spain back from the Moors, which wrote everything we live in today. People don't understand it's the most impactful thing in human history, except for maybe the Mongols, which drew why Russia is a kooky mess they are.
It's definitely very interesting because like growing up with a dad who was a person of color and then a white mom, Like you kind of just see this, and like growing up where the Klan was, you know, really prevalent, and they would protest on the courthouse and all that jazz. And my high school bully, his dad was like the Grand Wizard, whatever they call him. You know, that's what his
Don't
dad
they have
did.
funny names?
They have
Are
such
we
weird
supposed to
names.
take you
I don't
serious? You're wearing a dunce
don't
hat and you're
understand.
calling yourself a wizard dragon lord.
Right. And you're just like, I have no idea how we got here, you know? And it's just so hard. But the other thing too is like, how far does freedom of speech go? And I think like when it gets to like you being like, I'm gonna kill this person, that's when I kind of have to say, like, hey, slow the roll a little. But it's just it's so baffling to me to watch it, you know. And Carrie, I sympathize with you with some of your comments of like the racism in the party, because like I go to the Black Caucus meetings for the state. Girl, it is crazy because these people come in there and it's like they never talked to a Black person before, and they're like, let me talk to you about Flint, Michigan water. And it's like, how does this relate to a Utah Black person? You know what I mean? Like, why are you coming in quoting Maya Angelou and, you know, wanting to talk about how you read Malcolm X? Like, that's just weird. Like, don't be coming in like that. You know what I mean? But, and I've seen it and it's such a problem. But I think the racism, like we're seeing with the website, just goes louder and more broadly to like, what are we teaching children? And like, you know, how do we ensure that we educate them in a way to be like, hey, when people see this, it makes them feel a little bit unsafe. Right. Or
can I take a minute here and pose a thought? And sure. Not that whole over there thought, but a thought.
What the hell are you talking about?
I know this internet lingo. I'm hip. Our culture has feminized. Have you guys ever? There's a podcast called Modern Wisdom, and he had Eric Weinstein on it, and he asked him a question about why are so many boys, or to sum it up, why are so many boys going to the right? And Eric said, where else are they going to go? Because the left pushed them away. We have feminized our education systems. Is there a shop class in high school anymore?
I mean, my high school
but now
and still does.
You know,
there's still welding.
I think it depends where you grew up. I grew up in a rural area.
I mean, I'm out here in rural areas. I did nothing but shop. True. And those shop classes are dying. There's half as many as there was. And Obama, under Obama, and from what I've heard, it was a directive of Obama, took money out of the vocation in high school and put it into music. And which is fine, because I think music builds geniuses. But I think you already got to have a platform to be a genius. I was never going to be a musician, but I can drive a hammer with the best of them. So
that happened with Bush as well. They took it out of the arts and they took it out of the vocational.
But anyways, is this a whole reflection of where they feminized our education? They've told all boys, this isn't just white boys. They've told all boys, you're bad. Your ways are bad. Your energy is bad. You sit there and be quiet. Boys do not function well in that. That's why boys are falling behind. They've done all that. Do you think this might be on both sides, the black and the white and the Hispanic and the whoever and the whatever? Do you think this might simply be that rebellious reaction that's just naturally coming from that?
So what we're...
I think potentially.
Go ahead.
Because like I see... I just said I think it's potentially, because like the big thing I hear from my end of the spectrum is because I take BYU students with me all the time to teach them how to lobby for cancer, and I get Republican students, and it's fine. Like I used to work for Republicans before, and I really don't care what party you are, but I think a lot of the times these kids feel left behind because the messaging does not speak to their needs. And that's such a hard thing because, you know, you talk about shop class, right? And it's like, Did you ever have a desire to go to college?
My dad told me from when I was very young that there's only two ways into college, and that's if you get a scholarship and you ain't very bright, or if a rich relative dies, and we don't have any of those.
Right. And my dad couldn't go to college, right? And so he took shop classes. And I think some of it too is they're taking away those classes because it's like, we want to put you on this certain path. We want you to go to college. We want you to do these things. And it's forcing these young men into these steps where they're like rebelling, rightfully so, because they're like, this doesn't speak to me as a person and I don't feel seen.
So I think that there's something to say about feeling seen. And if I can go all the way back to when you said you go to the Black Caucus and it was, how come these people come in here? I feel like that is the fundamental difference between the two sides is that, so we were at an event and a Black man got up and he rapped 2 songs. And then on his 3rd song, he looked around and he goes, "Oh, I did not know I was the only brother in here. I can't do this." Okay. Well, these are people who are standing up, dancing, trying to get into his music, which was fine, not amazing, fine. But they were trying to be respectful, right? And so sometimes when people come, when they make that step, say something like Braver Angels, they make that step to cross the line. But even when they cross the line, it's how dare you do it in the wrong way. That has been my experience with Black Democrats all the Black Democrats that I've met in Utah. That has been the experience, is that how dare they ask these questions in the wrong way. They need to stay in their lane and only be educated, but then we're exhausted with educating them. And I'm like, where's the generosity here? So, and I feel the same way about our students. So absolutely, here I'm just dropping bombs left and right today, but I think Utah is full of feminized men. So sorry, not all.
I had to grow a beard for a reason.
Many times when I meet a man and then they're like, "Oh, my wife and I," and I'm like, "What?" Because I didn't expect. I that's not what I thought. And I think part of that is that a lot of women have been taught to hate the patriarchy. And they need to become strong, independent women. I believe women can be strong and be at home. That doesn't mean you have to be, but I think you can be just as strong and be a gracious woman who your strength is in nurturing the next generation. I think that is also strong. We tend to say that only these people and only these groups, and we're doing that same thing with our kids, our boys especially. Only if you take this path are you successful. Really? But I mean, in my classes, I was just talking about next year, and I said, you know what? I think I would prefer next year to teach one class that's like calm, and here's your workbooks, and it's for my sensory kiddos, right? So that they can be in a nice calm class. But I also have those boys who are getting up and in my face, but not in a bad way. They're just like, they're so excited about what we're talking about, and they're like dancing around. And I'm fine with those boys being those boys, because you know what? They answer the questions and they are smarter than a lot of adults. But people want to, even their own peers are like, I don't want them in my class because they're too loud. They trigger me. And the boys are like, these boys are thriving for the first time. I was told with a few of them, oh, you've got some tough kiddos in your class. And then all of a sudden, once you tell them, I think you're amazing, and I think the only thing about you is that you've got so much stuff going on in your head that your body just sort of does it too. And all of a sudden they're like, you accept me for who I am.
Right.
That's amazing. So I don't know where that went from, but I did hear the comment, and it did get me, because I do think that every person, including the KKK, like when I was younger, I saw a video, and it may have been in your town even, the KKK walking down in a parade, and half the class was like, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. And my teacher paused the video and was just like, if you take away their rights, they're going to take away yours. And I kind of would rather have people say the ugly, horrible, awful things and know where they stand than have them do it behind closed doors. But that's
as long as it just is talking and it's not violence.
Well, at the
freedom
same time,
should always win.
Well, I feel like lying though. I just experienced a month of people saying some pretty stupid, ridiculous lies. You'll get a kick out of this. They said I was a leftist here to destroy the party.
You have a target on you just like I do, but yours is a lot worse.
It's hilarious, actually, but
it's insane.
It is, but where do they have a right? Like, where do you say, look, I'm running for this office and you can't lie about me. You can say, in my opinion, she's blah, 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 but you can't actually lie. Or can they? Where does freedom of speech end? And I've had to question that. Like, where am I a free speech absolutist? I don't know. I don't know.
I am as well.
I am. And also I'll tell you about the KKK is I think one of our big degradations was when the Black Panthers in protest went to the California Capitol and Ronald Reagan banned guns at the Capitol. That was a racist gun ban. He did it specifically against the Black Panthers, and it kicked off the modern day gun banning that we've been going through. It kicked it off, and it kicked it off from the Republicans, and it kicked it off because of race.
And you never make a law that you're not prepared to have used against you. And all of them do come back around and will be used against you.
And you guys, I'm not sure, because if we're talking Black liberation, and we're talking Nation of Islam, even all the way back then. And if we're talking Nation of Islam, no. If people believe death to the West, I think that's a line that no.
In the 60s, I don't know if the Black Panthers was the group they went against. In the 60s, I don't think they were a death to the West. They weren't pro-West, and they were pro-communist.
Okay.
We can't cloud over that. They were completely getting their marching orders from the USSR, 100%. But, and that was the time. Well, it was under Truman actually that the Communist Party was made illegal, and Truman supported that heavily.
Hey, Carrie, Chad Saunders wants me to tell you, go Chiefs.
Yeah.
And Adam has joined the chat.
Talk about the evil infighting, Chad.
So with all of this, and with, freedom of speech to blatantly lie about a person, I hate it, because it's up to you to kind of, it's really hard when you're running for an office, especially because that lie could ruin your opportunity.
Didn't they say you had dropped out the night of?
That's a whole nother, yes. No,
that was a different office.
Minutes before. No, that was the SEC. It was literally minutes before. But my favorite thing was they said somebody who looked like me walked up to them and told them that Carrie Bartholomew was dropping out. And I'm like,
well, there's lots of you.
Not too many of me not too many of people who look like me. So I thought it was, I think it's funny. But the other thing is what happens is when that pendulum swings. So we do have a bunch of, Carmelo Anthony type people who are leaning in to Nation of Islam. That is the biggest thing. Okay, which is crazy.
Well, we also have the right saying the crazy things they say. And I'm thinking back to when that pendulum started swinging to the left back around 2006, 2007. And that was when you first started seeing on the internet, and it lasted. On the internet, it popped up where you could talk violence to males and especially to white males, and you did it freely. There were businesses that fired men for being men. There were a lot of things that happen, and that's that pendulum. As it swings, it gets crazy. And I would like to think that we could stop it in a meridian this time. I don't think we can. I don't think anyone can. I think this is historically a tradition. The wigs
so
and
Shiloh, the Shiloh situation. She's got a little boy, right?
Yep.
And I do not know, from an assumption made and from pockmarks on her face, potentially a drug addict lady there, right? Like potentially. That's what I'm thinking. But I don't know. I can't guarantee, acne is acne maybe. So I don't know. Anyways, but they're saying that because she is a racist, somebody should go and beat her baby's brains in so that her baby doesn't grow up with racist parents. To me, that person is dangerous and probably the kind of person who should be turned in. You're talking about and trying to get other people. You're like, there's a lot of money here. Why don't we take this woman's child out?
Well, I mean,
and at that level, where do you come back?
This is also a crime to threaten someone, to threaten your child. I mean, they're committing a crime. It's not even a First Amendment thing. But
somehow one side gets free with it. And then it is one side that can say way more violent things than the other, from what I read.
Yes, well, there's also comments on her from the right that are, I mean, I'm seeing a lot. There's a lot of anti-Semitism going on now. I don't get it. That's unusual. There's a lot of racism, and there's racism going on both ways. Right now, we're at a point with the Give, Send, Go has opened it up to where you can have a reflection on both sides. Also, the purchasing of Twitter. You used to, 2 years ago, you could see these remarks heading just towards the right on Twitter, and the right was throttled. Now it's wide open, and I'm wondering, and the right is kind of going kind of radical with it. Not all the right. Certain people or some instances of the right is going kind of radical. You've always had those crazies. You've got the what's that Fuentes guy on the right side,
Nick
and then
Fuentes,
you've got black nationalists on the left, and those guys they're kind of, I look at them as when you're standing on the baseball mound getting ready to hit, those are the lines that go to your outfields. Yeah. If you're touching those, you're out. Stay inside those, because anyone who says they want to hurt someone because of their race or ethnicity or religion or belief or anything else, I think those people are just I think they're faking it. I think they're doing it. Honestly, I think both sides are doing it to get paid. They're trying to lean in, and people are being edgy, and kids are being edgy now. Yeah, I mean, the teenage boys, whenever I'm around them, these are just white boys that, they live in suburbia and they're from the cul-de-sac, and they just throw the N-word around like it's out of hand. And I'm just like, really?
Yeah, but we're living now in a time where mental illness is rampant in this country. So you don't know anymore.
We don't need to talk about feminism. We've got enough subjects.
You don't know anymore if the person online is actually a threat. The things they say. And Fred Swain is with us. Hi, Fred. And he says, hi, Christy. And hi, Jordan. Jordan, you have written a lot of comments.
Yes, so we're gonna flow through them.
Fred says, my entire life, I was huge in defense of many of our rights. It wasn't until about the past 3 years that I realized how critically important the First Amendment is. It hasn't felt good to be censored. That right there are so many people that were censored over the course of the years and through COVID and all of that. And they got to see a different side where the internet is some people's only communication ability to the outside world. And none of us need it. None of us have to share our opinion. Nobody gives a crap necessarily about our opinion. It is a privilege in itself to be able to write, comments online. But people have forgotten there are real people on the other end of that comment.
Yeah.
And there has been yes, everyone has freedom of speech. We're not free of responsibility and accountability of what our speech is. So if we are threatening a baby's life, that person should be flagged. And you know what we find out about a lot of these school shooters? They get on the FBI radar well before they commit any crimes.
Well, yeah, that's how they afford all the big guns and trucks.
And it's so crazy to me that it is on the books that you cannot threaten a human being with violence or make that person be afraid of you. And yet a lot of these people aren't prosecuted, and maybe there's not enough jails. Maybe there's not enough lawyers or whatever. But we have to make people responsible when they make threats like this, because it just takes the wrong person with the wrong mental makeup that may actually do something like torture somebody's child because they believe the parent is racist or something. Yeah. And it's terrifying to me. And so we've got to have somebody take accountability.
Well, the other scary thing is that so much of our data is out there in the world. Like, I very easily could find your address by a Google search.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think about like parcels. Parcels are, allowed to be seen by the state. You can search by name. You can find out where someone lives. Like, and that's the hard thing is too right now is just like, we talk about the world we live in and how unsafe it is. Some of it's just because of how easy of information. Could you imagine back in the olden days, you're pissed at George Washington for something he did. No one had George's at, maybe they did because Mount Vernon's kind of famous, but your local politician, you probably may or may not have known where they live. Like they're just, that information was not readily available. And then you talk about mental illness. Like I think mental illness has always been this bad. I just think prior you put them in institutions. You think about it, during the Reagan administration, they got rid of institution, some right, some wrong.
Well, hold on. I've got it every time I've got to do this.
You're going to tell me that Reagan isn't the devil?
Reagan didn't do it. I want you guys to actually look up who did it. It was a young senator.
JFK.
JFK did it in the 50s. He wrote that into law, and it took 30 years. Now, yes, all those presidents between then, he did it when Eisenhower was president. All those presidents between then could have probably, well, they couldn't have shut it off because that's Congress's role, but it slipped in. But it was a young senator who did it. It was JFK.
What was getting people in was just, you were called, a woman who her husband was done with her or cheating on her. And, oh, she's out of her mind and hysterical, all these things. Now that we know more about mental illness and the research and all of that, we need to bring institutions back, but that are fully disclosed on the safety and health of the patient, because that's where people went and were tortured. They were put in solitary. They were drugged to the hilt.
I'd do a deep dive. They were not. They were not until it started getting defunded in the 60s.
Either way, we need all light on it.
In Russia, they would pull people who didn't agree with Soviet policy and they'd put them in the mental institutions,
Mm-hmm.
and they were
if you were lucky. Well, if you were unlucky, you went to Cannibal Island. But if you were lucky.
But I think we need to revisit a safe place that's monitored. And I would love it to be private, just because government funded stuff government messes things up that they touch. But there's got to be an option for families who have a child or a parent struggling with mental illness. And it's got to be a rehab type facility where they can get back into society. And a lot of mentally ill people won't even take their medication. What do we do with them if they're a danger or they're threatening people? I mean, these are the people you see on subways in New York that are just over the top. And the worst that can happen is they get 3 hots in a cot in a prison. Oh,
yeah, she did say it. In Utah. Yeah.
You get 3 hots and
a cot. Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
It's brown chicken, brown cow.
The other the other really hard thing with this too is the cost of medication. Right. The cost of medication sometimes for these mental health, like take bipolar disorder. Like bipolar disorder can be very expensive to treat because of the constant changing in meds. You know what I mean? Like it can be a lot. My step grandfather has bipolar disorder, and it was a finagle, and he did end up going to prison, and through the prison system he was able to get meds, you know what I mean? But like, should it take him committing the crime that he did to get help? No, not at all. You know what I mean? And so that becomes the hard thing, because
well, you also have not just the cost of medication, but the cost of the psychiatrist, to see the psychiatrist. And a lot of these people, maybe they do want to take their meds, but can't afford food because the medication is so expensive. And then they get to be homeless. They can't afford rent. They're certainly not going to pay for medication. So there's got to be a focus on the mental health in this country, because it all comes back to the stuff you see written on these insanity driven posts, or these hate driven posts. I keep saying, like, this person, obviously I wouldn't even fight with this person. One, I don't want to engage in the post, but two, because I don't think this person is playing on the same level.
Okay, but there's something that you're missing, which is
you don't want to upset them.
Mental health. Okay, mental health has absolutely 100%. I do a podcast with people every other week on this, and mental health has been co-opted. Mental health is about pushing social justice now. Many people, when they go into mental health, we think we're going into mental health for rehab. And the first thing they're hearing is that you will be a lifelong patient. So a lifelong patient moving towards a social justice ideology. Now,
a communist got a communism. I mean,
we can definitely have that conversation. I mean, yes,
that goes for as a whole. Our healthcare as a whole. It's like drug companies have had lifelong from cradle to grave patients.
Yes.
And I think that's why we need to deep dive into the healthcare in America, and we need to at least open boundaries for insurance companies so they can compete. And hospitals should have what their prices are. And if taxpayers are the ones spending money to develop these new drugs and stuff in these universities, but then we're getting sold those drugs back to us at a 300% markup, there is such a problem with all of that. And the people who have been mentally ill, or the young adults especially, where it's just getting them, we're just being diagnosed, or something's happened and their brain is just not working. And if there is medication to help them, they should absolutely have access. But if these people have committed crimes, there's got to be a way to get them on track in a facility that is designed to help them get on track. They need to be held accountable and serve time or whatever, but I don't think throwing them in a prison, then figuring out what their mental illness is.
That's where you hit the complicated part.
Then putting them on the drugs that actually work. Now it's like you've got an innocent person in prison.
Let me ask you a question.
They weren't in the same mindset they were when they committed that crime.
I wish Nathaniel was here for this.
Struggle with that.
Let's say you come across someone who has, we'll throw the whole, I actually have a person I know who has this. Drug-induced schizophrenia, permanent schizophrenia, but it's drug-induced. Commits a essay on a child. What takes prevalence in that? Is it
the child?
Yeah. No. What takes prevalence? The medication or the punishment? I have no opinion on this.
For me, it's a little bit of both, because like when my grandfather went to prison for murder. He killed Debbie in a bipolar episode. He was taking one medication, didn't feel like it was doing enough, started taking his girlfriend's medication too, and then he completely blacked out and killed Debbie. And his defense was bipolar. I struggle with this because he still killed someone. Like, he deserved to go to jail. Like, there is no getting out of jail free card when it comes to mental illness.
The 3 hots in a, what was that, Holly?
Cot.
Yeah. But he did it, and he
Okay.
was in prison for 24 years.
Okay.
You know, and deserved to be.
So just 2 weeks ago, a young man burnt down a bunch of Tesla dealerships, and he was let out because he's transitioning. He started transitioning in April. In April.
And he's autistic or has ADD. He has one of those.
Is that enough to allow
No.
somebody to burn down buildings?
And
I mean,
their actions said the medications he would not be able to continue to transition with the medications needed if you put him in jail. And yet they're doing that every day. They're giving them medications.
But does he have like bail? Like, what is the situation? Is he like bailed out for now until he goes to court?
Oh, good.
Or
that's a good
because
question.
they do that a lot, where they'll bail him out until they have their court day for criminal
But there's
stuff.
the question, because will they do that a lot? Because the first person that Nathaniel was talking about, Rittenhouse. Okay, he was not out on bail. There have been many people who've not been out on bail. On one side, they're not let out on bail. On the other side, they are. And that's what makes people go, it's lawfare. Because you can't let some people out and some people not. Carmelo's out. Carmelo stabbed a kid in the heart. He stabbed a kid in the heart. The kid fell and died in his twin brother's arms. And he's out. So how come we have a two-tiered justice, which is what I think we do. We have a two-tiered justice system. One side, and also going back to mental health and who decides. Well, there was a person on PBS who felt that every conservative is a danger to society and their children should be taken away and they should be put in mental hospitals. So you have to be careful when it's used and how it's used.
So the bail situation I'm fairly familiar with is it depends a lot on the judge and the prosecutor to decide whether or not they're going to allow it. And there isn't a very, like, in criminal law, there isn't a very clear indication. Like it becomes judge roulette is what we tend to call it in the legal field. And that's the hard thing with this, is to say, well, why is one side? It could genuinely be that in that state, the laws are set up in a way that they do allow bail access. You know what I mean? Because some states are very pro bail access for individuals, where some states are not. And it's like a calculator almost. It just really varies. So to say, like, if one person committed a crime here, but if another person did and they looked this different way, would they get out on bail? I think it's really unfair to make that assumption because of the nature of the laws and the changing of each state.
But what if it's
not
what if it's not an assumption? Like in the UK, they've said that this group gets out, but the white male does not.
Yeah, the UK, it's not the white male. The UK, well, okay, the white male gets punished more, but white females get punished more than
everybody else too. Just being white.
They actually came out with this, but I don't want to argue the UK. That's a fallen state, and I don't care. They've given up on life. Europe, as far as I'm concerned, we get to watch what it looks like as a civilization crashes. The best term I've heard used for it is it's a museum of the greatness of man.
That's really sad.
What can do when they try? What's that?
I'm half American. I have EU citizenship, and I can sympathize with that.
Europe has given up on life. They've given up. They're not trying to build. They're not trying to make. They're just trying to become a bureaucratic nightmare where everything is backwards. Enjoy. But anyway, I'd be trying to come to America.
On that, the college student accused of firebombing Tesla leadership has been released from federal custody to continue gender affirming medical care. He is still facing federal charges for allegedly tossing 2 Molotov cocktails into a Missouri Tesla dealership last month, causing hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages, and 2 Cybertruck and 2 charging stations. The physics student was granted release by U.S. Magistrate Judge Jessica Hedges due to serious and ongoing medical needs, which include gender-affirming medical care that requires daily medication, as well as mental health support.
Can I?
So he's just been released, probably back to his family, pending his trial.
They probably
Can I ask a question? This question's mostly for you, Katie, but everyone chime in. Okay.
Sure.
First of all, I think throwing Molotov cocktails should be considered arson with attempted murder or negligent attempted murder, because you don't play with fire like that. I think anyone who just randomly starts fires in violence, done. But anyways, neither here nor there. Katie, am I supposed to care at all about what Richard Noggin here thinks they should have between their legs at this point?
Honestly, if they're over the age of 18 and like,
no, I mean for the status of letting them out in recognizance when they possibly attempted to kill someone negligently. Am I supposed to care?
And like for me, I am just really baffled. Like, what is the gender affirming care that is like life threatening? Do you know what I mean? Like, that would be my questioning, would be, why has it been deemed life threatening, would be my assumption. You know what I mean? Because
it always is. Like that. So that's
I don't know enough.
No. That's definitely part of the mental health thing, is that they will say if a trans identified person does not get the support that they need, they're more likely to commit suicide. Thus, it is life threatening to not give them the supports that they need all the time. That's why we've got it. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this on my Facebook, but an 11th grade girl just sent me a message and she's like, what about us? Because the sign on the thing says, I'll go with you. And so it's saying, if you are a trans person and you want to use the bathroom of your choice, we will go with you. We will be your allies and stand in the bathroom with you to make sure that you don't get bullied. And that's affirming care. Everything, like, if you don't cater to this, that's affirming care. If you say, you know what, and I have a kiddo in one of my classes. I'm not going to say more than that, but I have a kiddo who's in one of my classes, and I do not care about what's going on in that area. I care that they succeed in my class, and they really appreciate. I have a great relationship with that kid, but there's no need to give them these drugs. I think what we're doing is we're turning these kids into activists. Once again, there's another bomb, but I think that it's intentionally turning these kids into activists and turning them right back out so they can be violent because they believe that their cause is righteous. That trans is to transcend, to be at a higher level of entitlement. And I know that sounds woo-woo, but you guys, you know what I do. I read a whole lot of stuff.
Well, it does feel like the Democrats are okay with the political violence mass in the streets right now. And I'm sorry but the only time I've heard the Democrats come out vehemently against it was when they went after your previous state's governor's mansion.
Well, I have to say this.
Hold on. What was that, Katie?
You're talking about Governor Shapiro.
Yeah, but it's the governor's mansion of Pennsylvania.
People's mansion.
And
people could have died. Like that's the scary thing about that.
And that's the only time I've seen the left. That's the only time I've seen the Democrat Party come out and say, stop it. This is bullcrap. Yeah. Other than that, the Democrat let it roll. And in certain circumstances, including a presidential candidate last time, set up GoFundMes to get those Molotov cocktail throwers out of jail.
The BLM.
And so that's what's concerning me about the Democrats right now is they are acting like the Bolsheviks did in 1919. They're acting like it.
I wanted to add something.
I don't know, because I think it would be easy to flip that on its head a little bit.
What Republican violence is there that the Republicans have even stayed quiet about?
I mean, we have January 6th. You know what I mean? We have Proud Boy events. You know what I mean? Like,
hold on. Let's dive into those. January 6th was retarded, and I have seen no Republicans say it should have happened. Not one. I've seen not one. I've seen Republicans say that it's being spun, but I've seen none of them say that it should have happened. I've seen none of them. I've seen none, including the guy who supposedly kicked it off, who told them not to. But on the Democrat side, I've seen dead silence or financial support for.
In the Summer of Love, before January 6th.
Oh, well,
I
would
lived in Seattle
that.
during it. I lived in Seattle during it. 100%. That's what we saw. But we also still see it. We still see calls for violence, where it's constant. Nobody condemning what's going on college campuses is terrible. These kids, they somehow think that they're righteous while they're just tearing down Jewish people for being Jewish. Are you serious? No. It's beyond. And the thing is that our kids don't know history. They don't know what the Bolsheviks are. They don't know what the brown shirts are. They don't know. And I've seen it. I've seen it myself. I've experienced it myself. I'm not a person who likes the riots, likes the violence. I don't know. I do know this. I don't go to the Capitol when there's some sort of counter thing, because I would prefer not to get punched in the face. And the violence tends to come and be justified from the left. And I know for a fact that at least one member in January 6th, now were there stupid people? 100%. Was I there? Nope, wasn't there. But I do know that at least one person came right out of Salt Lake, was an instigator, and he was a member of BLM. And that's a fact.
We actually had him on
for a short.
Yeah.
We had him on this show.
He did.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was just thinking.
So that's one thing, and that's one thing I think the Democrats really need to turn around and face, because the only time I've seen them come out and say, we're going to get on some stairs, we're going to get a bunch of cameras, we're going to get microphones, was when the violence was turned on Governor Shapiro because of his religion, his ethno-religion.
Did they catch the person who did that?
Yes, they did.
And was that person against Jews?
Yes, it was. It was all about Palestine.
So Katie mentioned the Judge Roulette, and you couldn't be more right, because the same type of thing happened in Las Vegas with the Molotov at the Tesla dealership in Las Vegas. And this judge he refused to let this person out pending trial. No bail. They're going to stay in. So it's interesting that judges have become political adversaries. And the whole problem is they're not supposed to be, because justice is blind.
It's a good thing it's never happened in the past.
They can't run under a party, but they are appointed. And, some of these things.
Some states appoint, not all.
These are federal judges that are on these cases. And I just worry.
But most of these cases will never be seen by federal judges. Most of them are going to go through your district court.
And they'll probably plead out.
Right. And that's the scary thing, because I've run judge campaigns in Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? And it is, although the judges don't say what party they're a part of, it's very clear. You know what I mean? It is very clear who they're on the side of. And that becomes the hard thing, because it used to be this belief of, well, the law is the law. And then it became, well, what's the spirit of the law versus the written law? You know what I mean? And it's been very challenging at times within the court system to watch it. You know what I mean?
I need my independent soapbox. It's not because of, I think judges should willingly be open about what party they're in. I think everyone should be willing. I think we should be in a safe country where I know you're a Democrat, so I know that if I need to talk to people about a certain issue, that a Democrat would have a stronger fold on that. The problem is both parties 1,000,000% care more about the party than they do about the nation, than they do about civics, than they do about children. Both parties, not people in the parties, both parties. Some of the stuff Trump does I sit and I go cross-eyed and I say, what are you doing? What are you saying? Almost everything the Democrats do make me do that, but that's because I am a Lockean liberal, not a Rousseauian liberal. There's a difference, and everyone should educate themselves on those.
Yeah, and see, for me, it's just like right now I'm watching, you have people talk all the time like, how did we get here, right? How did we get here as Democrats? And I hear it all the time. And some of it is kind of a failure. You think about the Obama administration when he controlled all three, it's like he didn't do anything for us. You know what I mean? Like he didn't help us. He brought his bros from Wall Street first day and was like, hey, I'm here for you guys. And did not care about the American people. And that's the thing. Like, I'm the worst Democrat because I'm more moderate and I'm not like a diehard like progressive. That's just not who I am as a person. I worked for Republicans. I'm good with it. You know what I mean? That's kind of always been my deal.
You fight for cancer. Cancer does not care.
Right.
Does not care. It doesn't care what your political party is.
How much money
it doesn't
you make.
care how much tithing you spent said year. It don't care.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the hard thing is like that's why I have to be a bit more partisan in some areas, but it's like I think we look at the party system and I got asked to join the Forward Party. I met with their team, talked with them. They asked if I would join. The biggest thing that they're up against and any new party that wants to come in and fight kind of the corruption of both is the cash aspect. People make a lot of money in these political spaces. You know what I mean? And it's extreme.
And people give a lot of money to get a political party in because they get kickbacks.
They get power. And they get their stuff
it's like right
handled.
Now. It's like right now, Trump's friends gave him money for his inauguration, which is cool, whatever, do whatever. But now they're like, he didn't favor me. When? And it's like, you gave that money knowing that you might not get anything out of it. Like the audacity to think you gave him $1 million so he's going to do X for you.
And that's what's happening every day in politics. We just don't see it. Absolutely. I mean, Elon Musk gave 146 million to Trump and has followed that all the way through. And look how much he's lost in tariff talk and in the hate of Tesla all of a sudden and all this other stuff. Like I know he didn't think he was going to get something in return. I don't know that. I don't know what anyone's thinking or knows. However, he did ride that wave all the way through, and he really, truly believed in the candidate, and he believed in what was going to happen. He didn't have a crystal ball to realize that he would have such huge downside to his business and his livelihood. But I think that it is so commonplace now that electeds are presumed to be bought and paid for. Which is why I believe they should have to wear jackets in NASCAR with all their big named donors on them, just so we know.
I would pay money for that. Yeah. Because otherwise, because it becomes real sneaky, it's like, let's go through the disclosures to see who's bought you. Like, even in this state, like, it's crazy because I worked for a representative this past year. You know what I mean? And she's one of the few representatives I can say that isn't bought. And we scrape by on a very low budget in some aspects compared to others, but it becomes so crazy because you see some of the money coming in from out of state. And then you have these electeds who are like, I really care about housing, because both the board people care about that. And then you find out that like some of the biggest developers have paid them in. And then it's like, no, you don't. Like, don't lie. Like, don't pander to me. Just take your money. Don't lie and just keep going. But that becomes the hard thing is education to voters to understand who they're voting for, what do they represent, and who is behind
But it's hard because you don't know. You don't know if that person is bought and paid for just because a donor gave them money. Donors are going to do that. And so it's hard because the perception is bad. And with super PACs, it could be endless dollars, unlike election law that allows only so much per company, per politician. So, I mean, that right there, I know many a politician that are up and they're totally on board and they fight for the people. they can't help who donates to their campaign. And I don't know many politicians that are going to turn money away because they know what their values are and they know what they're going to do. And I think that's what made Trump a threat, because you couldn't buy him.
I've only ever seen a few people turn away money in the political sphere, and it was like
it has to be like open. The KKK sends you a gold coin.
One of them was the crypto guy. Mitt Romney returned the money from Sam Friedman. I think that's his last name.
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, he returned that money. I know he was.
Did he return it after?
After the scandal came out, he was told, and he turned it back.
He wouldn't have.
But he would have. But yeah, you wouldn't have known. And Sam Bankman-Fried, he sent money to Romney. That's interesting
because he
was not just a big Democrat donor, but he's generationally from the family of not just their Democrat bundler families. They're the ones that gather parties and get groups together. But okay, we've wandered off subject to just griping about how we're doomed to fail because our political parties, and we do have to do comments. And I did want to cover a couple of things, and I wanted you ladies here exactly for it. So tonight the show's going to be a little long.
It can't go too long.
We can't go too long.
I hope Holly didn't have any after plans.
Yes, I wanted to cover what are your thoughts on Salt Lake City's movement to have the flags?
Do you know what it is? Salt Lake City has gotten around the law just for the people at home. In order to get around the ban on transgender or LGBTQ flags hanging in county buildings, the way they got around it is by putting the county logo on an LGBTQ flag.
Not even a county logo. They're just putting the Sago lily on there.
Sorry, city.
The
city.
But they're putting just a Sago lily.
No, but I'm saying it's Salt Lake City.
Is that Salt Lake City's logo? Is the Sago lily?
Yeah, it's Air Mendenhall.
Okay. What? Okay, so I go to the YouTube, sharing it right now. If anyone wants to do this at home, there is not one positive comment on the story. Not one.
There's one. Thank you, Salt Lake City.
Who was the reporter?
This is just on. He's looking at the YouTube from.
This is KSL.
Okay, I was just curious about who their audience is because KSL tends to lean more.
KSL leans more middle of the road Democrat and conservative. They are not conservative.
See, I find them conservative, but that's just me. Like growing up in Pennsylvania, like I would see them like they're owned by the church. That would be, more closely aligned with being.
But anyways, why would you make that your stand?
I think it's very interesting, and I don't understand. I mean, I'm very I feel like them banning the flags was a little bit of a government overreach.
But hold on, I want to push back on that. Why would you allow into any government building a flag that dictates only certain parts of the population
and sexual parts?
I don't even care about the sexual parts. Only certain parts. Like I wouldn't allow them to have a flag in there that says, I don't know, white guys who like beer. You see what I'm saying?
You wouldn't allow a straight flag.
A Wisconsin flag.
Wisconsin flag.
A flag that says
good one. Why you got a doggone Wisconsin? Americans. Is that a Pennsylvania thing? You got to come at it. You got to come hard at them.
No, it would be Michigan if I went after anyone being raised in Youngstown.
That's true. And Michigan goes after Wisconsin. It passes down.
Yeah.
Everyone hates the Dakotas, I guess.
I think for that kind of thought process is like those people who are elected, like it's no deciding factor that Salt Lake County is very.
That's fine. That's fine. And if on their
that's their elected officials, if they didn't like it, their people can just vote.
Well, hold on. But I think this is just a universal argument. if on their desk they want to have a little flag, you know, them little numbers, fine. Mm-hmm. But to be paid for by the people, you know, should they have to be forced to choke down something that may not include them? Should we allow anti-LGBTQIA plus, two-spirit, one cow, whatever flags? Should we allow anti-flags?
It's an interesting thought because you think about like capitals, right? Around the holidays, they tend to have like an Easter or a Christmas theme.
A decoration.
And the Satanic Temple said, right. And the Satanic Temple said, we want something too. We'd like to put something there for freedom of speech. And that's a very interesting point because it does become the question of, are you opening a free speech avenue to allow potentially groups that you might not align with? And I think that would be a very interesting
What happens in 20 years when these young men who freely call each other bad words say, we're in charge now, and we want the anti-gay flag on our flagpole out in front of... When honestly, it should be, look, here's the way it goes. Countries, you get one flag. States, you get two flags. Counties and cities, you get three. And that's it. That's the American flag. Then down lower, the state flag, and then county and city flag. And that's what you get. And in that order.
Well, because it's supposed to represent everyone. Just like we wouldn't have one that's anti-LGBTQ. And the law was made to unify the state and not have all these different flags. I mean, it's just a lot. But for the city or for the county, I guess it was the city.
Yeah, it was Mendenhall.
And it was unanimous, but it was an okey doke way to get around the law.
Well, and it's because, let's face it, it's because Trump's president.
Well, and Trump's president Cox even was part of the ban on just having the Utah flag. So and he still is an ally. Cox has been a very outward ally to the LGBTQ community, to his detriment with a lot of people in his own party. And he's faced a lot of problems with that. However, we shouldn't be dividing ourselves, and, you know, they shouldn't be in classrooms. They shouldn't be in city buildings. Taxpayers shouldn't be funding pro-LGBT just like they shouldn't be funding anti, because it's not the state's place.
So what if the mayor paid for it herself?
Did she pay for the flagpole? Did she pay for the people who hung it? I think
she's asking the potential question. What if it wasn't funded by taxpayers?
Right. What if it wasn't funded?
Like she wanted to, like the taxpayers never built the flagpole or put up the municipal building.
Yeah, let's just say she bought the stand, because in the video that I saw, it wasn't on the outside flagpole, but they were just like those.
It was like the guide-on stands. Like yeah, sure.
Right. And it's like, what if she just paid all of that? Is that still a problem?
Like I said, in their personal offices, she can have a flag that goes floor to ceiling in her personal office that's other than.
No, I think the law says that they're not to have any flags in there.
So the fact is that people are they're being colonized. I've had multiple people call me and say, what the heck is going on? I never thought that this could possibly happen in Utah. They're being colonized. They do not care. They don't care what half the people think. You might laugh, but there's a lot of old people who are like, this is my, I've lived here forever. What are you doing? And they don't care. So we elect people because once a year, they put on a face and say, God bless America. I'm a conservative. They put an R next to their name and we go, oh, that sounds wonderful. We don't do the research to find out behind them. Before you guys were talking about how the newspaper was conservative. So this is what I said at the beginning. I'm a conservative, not a Republican. Okay. I am a conservative in my values, but I think that the Republican Party is practically part of the Uniparty in a lot of ways. There's a whole lot of people who follow the same things, who are afraid to stand up, who don't believe that the American flag represents all of us. See, that the American flag or any any country's flag is supposed to be like, oh, I saw that. Yes, that represents me. I know I'm home. But we're taking that away. And when you put that up and you say that, you're telling a whole lot of people, I don't give a blank what you think. I now run the roost. So much for kind and compassionate. That's what that's what we're doing. And I'm watching it over and over again with our young people. That's the hardest thing. You know, and I feel bad for these old people who are calling me going, Carrie, I didn't know that this could happen in my in my state.
I can tell you right now, my 94-year-old grandma, she can't watch TV because she's blind, but she hears it and she's like, what?
Yeah.
She's up in arms. And she weighs, she's a force to reckon with. She weighs about like 82 pounds. She stands all of 3'6" or something.
It's meant to divide us.
Yes. And that's what it feels like. It feels like it's a dividing factor to give praise to the smallest, tiny, most minuscule, less than 1%.
But that 1% is just as important as the 99%.
Sure. That's why you have the American flag.
And that's why we have the flag that is for all, not for the few.
I would say all Americans. I'd like to clarify that, because we're also saying, like, one thing that's getting used a lot from what I said in the beginning was Islam. Islam comes in and says, hey, we need to be included in this DEI. And then we go, oh, we need to cater to that percent. And then we're in a whole hell of a lot of trouble.
Well, there's states that are actually really facing a lot of trouble.
Fighting a lot of Sharia.
And, you know, look what's happening in England. And you look how many mayors in England are Muslims and how many Sharia courts they have in England. And now the percentages of English versus Muslims, because they're not acclimating in their societies, but they are doing what they need to do to get power, to change laws, and to have the outcome they're looking for. It's amazing of what happens when people stop caring about the basic, essential principles of our country, not party. Right. I too am a conservative. The Republican Party is just a means to an end for me to focus on the values that I believe in. But freedom and the Constitution are easy for me. That's just a great guideline. Right. Yep. But I think by saying I don't think we should have these flags in city buildings is not saying I'm not an ally, because I'm absolutely an ally to these people. But I think it's doing the opposite. It is telling 99% of the taxpayers that you don't belong here. You aren't living up to the standard. You need to cater. And yet most of the gay folks I know just want to be left alone and just be able to be themselves without having to constantly be activists or constantly have to defend or, offend when they're told to. They just want to live their lives, love who they love, and go on with their day. And the one guy I said, he's like, I would be shocked if you put a flag on your house that basically was for straight people that said, hey, I like the opposite sex. Like, that would be awkward. And if I had to explain to my child, like, yeah, that person likes to have sex with the opposite sex, it would be awkward. Yet you guys, he says, and you guys my group is expecting me to wave my flag around, and it's supposed to be fine.
Because the goal is always division. It's just one more pawn, just like blacks are a pawn. Just like every other minority group, we're pawns, because divided we fall. It really comes down to that. That's what this whole, going back to the beginning and the give, send, go wars. That's what this is. It's divided we fall. I feel like we're coming close to a hot war point. We're coming close to a point where, as a person who looks like me, I don't want to go for a walk. That's where we're headed. So, and I put 110% into teaching children that we don't hate.
Well, you have to teach children to hate, because they're born with no hate. And that's the problem. There are parents out there teaching their children to hate. And
the problem is curriculum is
the worst.
So you're not telling her to teach children as a
No, I'm saying children aren't born inherently to hate. They have to be taught
telling
how to
them
do
as
it.
a description. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
At
So
first
when
I was
schools-
like,
when
you
schools
have to
embrace
teach.
anti-racism.
you
That's what
better
I
teach them
thought,
kids.
too.
Right.
I'm
Like,
teaching my kids nunchucks.
Yeah, no, I think
No.
you're right. I think our curriculum and I think that
I don't know. I didn't mean to open up a can of
curriculum
worms.
has absolutely divided our kids. I'm glad that, that we've kind of come back to a place with, critical race theory. I don't know how bad it was in this state. I know that my kids weren't being taught it in their school, but I know other kids were being taught something along the lines, but I know other states had issues, but personally, I can't speak to that. But that itself was teaching children to self-loathe or to look at a person of color as greater than, and yet you're
even
the
just
same.
different.
You all bleed the same.
Right.
Well,
not always greater than. Victimhood is not necessarily a greater than. Victimhood
Right.
is
well, let's let
infantilizing
Katie
someone.
get an opinion out on the flags or a thought, and then I want to move on to another subject.
Well, we got to wrap it up.
I'm probably the worst one again because I don't like. I personally, if they're going to be there, sure, whatever. Like, they've been elected by their people. If their people don't like it, they're going to vote them out, hopefully. Like, that's how the system's supposed to work. Does it always?
Right.
No. But I like, my thought process is like, I've never looked at a pride flag and been like, wow, I am not wanted here. Like that idea, and like some people must genuinely feel that way. Like, I'm hearing it a lot tonight. Like, people do feel it. I personally don't have that feeling when I see those things. And so,
is there any flag that makes you feel that way though? Like
a BLM or a Don't Tread on Me?
I mean, sure, always the Don't Tread on Me. No, like, I think about like the Italian flag or my flag in my province in Italy, or like the Pennsylvania flag. You know what I mean? Like, those are things that I identify. The American flag, you know what I mean? And like, those to me identify. But like, if you need something else to feel seen, like, go for it. Like, I don't want to police that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my business, And I think we kind of have to have that mentality a little bit. It's like, okay, that's what makes you happy.
But that's
great.
That's a public building. That's a community meant to be governed with the community, the taxpayers, and all of that in mind. It's not a private citizen having it on their house. It's the government telling you this flag is important.
Again,
it's 3 hots and a what?
And there's four. There's 4 flags.
For sure. But the thing is like, those people are part of the community. You know what I mean? Why does someone need to police it that isn't a part of that community? Why does that make you so upset that it's in this space? Like, it's their building too. It's the people.
Right.
So if I'm a non-denominational Christian and I come up and I say, okay, fine, I want to be represented too. We're a small minority here in Utah. As a non-denominational Christian, hang my flag. Do you really think that she's going to hang my flag?
Probably not. And that's what I said at the beginning. I think it would be a very interesting legal case from seeing what the Satanic Temple has done. I think it would be interesting. I'm just saying, from a Katie perspective, I really don't care.
Remember when the Satanic Temple got their statue it was an Oklahoma courthouse, and that night a drunk driver ran it over on accident? Not even on purpose.
Right.
The guy didn't do it on purpose. It reminds me of the George Floyd mural that got struck by lightning. Like, I'm an atheist, but I kind of thought, maybe there is a God.
Maybe agnostic.
Maybe I need to shape up. Like, God's like, you're going to go out tonight, good sir, and you're going to have a couple beers. You're going to get in that old 70 Chevy. It's got the weight ratio I need.
The devil made him do it.
Whap, hit Baphomet. And then God's like, oh man, the guy's a crackhead. Stop making him a hero. He, held up a pregnant woman and hit him with lightning.
Right. Sure. I don't know. For me, it's just kind of like, flags are just, I think flags are such a minuscule part of our problems.
I want to just make this one statement. And let's face
Sure.
it. I run the computer that drives this machine. We can make this the last part of this. I don't like it when you turn a whole society's heels on performance. And that's all I'm going to say. How much money did it cost Salt Lake City to do that? That could have gone to maybe a little bit of homeless shelter action that they need help with, or maybe a little bit of something else. Just they did it only. I'm telling you, mark my words. They did it because Donald Trump is in the big house. Had a Democrat won, this wouldn't have happened. Had a Democrat won and Utah still wrote the same laws, this wouldn't have happened. It happened because Donald Trump is in the poorhouse, is in the big house, poorhouse, is in the big house, and him being in the big house because he doesn't filter his words tends to make the Democrats buttholes clap shut very loud, very hard. So,
well, and I think that she actually mentioned in the meeting that she actually mentioned Spencer Cox and the legislature.
Sure, but
that they were overreaching their bounds. They
it
don't
would
tell
have
a
only
city
happened. It wouldn't have
do
happened. It wouldn't have happened had Kamala won.
No,
had
because
Kamala
they'd be
won,
everywhere. The flags would be everywhere.
But had Kamala won and the state of Utah still pushed those down, it wouldn't have happened then. It only happened because of Trump. I've watched it. The Democrats have become the crazy house.
Okay, let me jump in here and say hi, Christy. I'm so embarrassed that I dropped a hot mic thing. Don't save that audio, by the way. I'm so embarrassed.
That is going in our intro.
Norma says
3
hots and a penis.
Okay, I didn't say penis. Okay. Norma says we need to raise our children better, teach them real reasoning, teach empathy and support for differences. Christy's laugh emoji. Fred says, after being involved in a lame attempt to manage mentally ill people in the jail, I'm in favor of comprehensive mental institutions. And then he says, some balls can't be unrung. Oh, some bells. I have a crack in my screen.
She's doing all.
Somebody just put me out of my misery.
Oh, and I'm the one who's been drinking.
Wow.
Oh, geez. Thanks, Fred.
What else we got?
I need to get my screen fixed.
I hope nobody types Virginia in
Norma
the chat.
says most mentally ill cannot hold a job. They will not have insurance. And that's a very, very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Once they're deemed mentally ill, insurance is near impossible. So how do you get them in an institution where they're going to get care all the time? We need private sector. We're going to need government, probably. She says safety of all children comes first. Jeff Adamson. Hi, Jeff. He says simply two-tier justice system equals one agenda-based prosecution. And then he says, hold him, and I think he's talking about the bombers for Tesla, hold him in a mental institution until trial. Then they will use the same reason, if found guilty, to not incarcerate. And that's that same hormones. The problem is when you're on that hormone in that trans care, that hormone drug messes with your brain. And just like hormones mess with us regularly.
Yeah, hormones don't mess with women at all.
Steroids. Like this
that come from her, not me, guys.
This is
you ladies' hormones are all worked out.
Stop. This is natural. And what we're seeing is that hormones that are being put into people who are going through this transition surgery is really gives them a lot of emotions and rage, especially if they're getting more testosterone or they're limiting testosterone. So that is what they say is life-affirming care. Just to make sure.
If you wanted to create an activist, wouldn't you create somebody who had behaviors like this?
Yeah. So
okay.
Matt Jones says you can count on one hand the number of presidents that truly care about the citizens. And now Fred is laughing on the floor. LMFAO.
Okay, so have you guys? Man, it's a long video, but this kind of takes us back to it. Okay,
back to what?
So the guy who there's the cartoon The Boondocks, right?
Okay, I'm familiar.
Yeah. Okay, so the guy who created it, he this was back in 2003, and he said this. And
I was going to say, he looks real young.
Yeah, I want to ask your opinion on this, both you guys, but we'll quick listen to him. Okay, hold on. I got to make the sound work. Where do I turn the sound up at?
Time is running out. And a lot of black people say that, but for real. Part of why the civil rights movement has been so successful, and part of why those who have come after in terms of our leadership have been able to maintain a presence, is that black people have always had a certain amount of moral currency that we have been using. And let me be the first to tell you, that's used up. White America has been watching us act like fools for a long enough time where any sympathy they may have had to our plight is completely gone. You can't be the proud, noble fighter when every single time someone sees a person that looks like you on television, they're acting like a damn fool. How would they know? How would they know you're not a damn fool? I really want you guys to understand.
All right.
That's interesting.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I did.
So,
Yeah, I figured that out because
good.
I am quite proud of myself, actually.
that's been
Dwayne helped me out.
in your side.
He goes on to talk about how, and this is in 2003, and back then the black community hasn't gone as they have today. And I'm not saying this to be racist. So, I have some of the most important people in my life are black, including my nephew. And I love him with all of my heart. But it is true that, and yes, the news props it up when they shouldn't. Certain news stations do, certain news stations don't. But when we see a store looted, or when we see violence, because back then, really the only violence we'd seen we had the LA riots and we had the Rodney King riots. We had the Watts riots, but now we've went through these riots we had in the Summer of Love were nothing compared to the Watts riots, or the Philadelphia riots when they bombed Philadelphia. That was an Army general who did that. I don't know if you remember that. But going after the Animal African Caucus? A guy's trying to start his own country. Interesting. But when you see the news, you see this, and he's saying this before then. He's trying to tell black people, don't get involved in these lootings and riotings, because when you do that, you drag us all down. And eventually the white man is going to quit listening to our plight. We're going to sell all of our currency by these bad actions. And I'm wondering, has this happened? Is this why we're seeing this wave? And there's a wave, a surge of racism coming from young white men right now. And is that why? Has that Rubicon been crossed?
I don't know. I really don't, because I'm seeing it on both sides. Racism from both sides.
Sure, it is. But right now I'm focusing on the racism that's just popped up.
Well, when you as a people put up a fight over someone like what's his name? The 20 of Love, Summer of Love, George Floyd. Candace Owens said it best. Like, why are people going to riot and burn down their own cities, their own businesses, black-owned businesses in black neighborhoods? They're going to torch him and put him to the ground over a guy that isn't worth this type of thing, and they keep propping up bad actors.
Well,
Yet I understand that there was a police issue and they wanted to bring attention to it. And then it just all of a sudden, it turned to where even these people in these communities were like, when the defund the police, these communities were saying, what, are you crazy? Don't defund the police. They're the only thing we have to come and help us. And these are Black neighborhoods. So I think it's political, and they use it, but I believe it's been used by the media and by the government against all of us.
Okay, so moral currency. When you teach a people that all they have to offer is their victimhood, that does wear out. That gets tiring for people after years and years and years of doing that. And one of the things that's the hardest thing to watch in the Black community is that it's the only community, my friend, and I'm quoting my friend Adam B. Coleman here. The hardest thing to watch is that it's African Americans are the only people who aren't taught to lead themselves. They're always taught to look for a leader. We have some of the worst leaders in Utah that are Black Democrats, female, women Democrat leaders that are vile. Okay, that's exhausting to watch. It's exhausting to be the center of their stuff, where they say, oh, there's Carrie Bartholomew, the Black tap dancer for the white man, blah, 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 blah. So that gets old, it gets worn out. And when you're the people who have to listen and go, oh yeah, that's right, you have a right to say that because you're somehow virtuous, that begins to kill any moral currency. But more than that, that old stuff that is constantly eroded people and made them, instead of going, yes, I can do, I can be, I can accomplish, I'm just a freaking human being, leave me alone. Don't constantly say, oh, here's the Black woman, here's the mixed woman, here's the whatever. I'm just Carrie, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't mean I'm ashamed of my race. I like the melanin in my skin, but it doesn't do anything other than just be the color of my skin. But on top of that, you have a bunch of kids who haven't been taught this way, because in the 90s, we parents who grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, we didn't raise our kids this way. But then we started looking for our leaders, okay? And our leaders are Ibram X. Kendi. Are you freaking kidding me? You've got a race grifter telling people to find racism everywhere all the time, always be looking for racism. That is exhausting. And when you've got friends, you've got kids who grew up together, who played all the time, and I'm talking from experience, my son and his friends, they never once considered race until they're taught to. And now we're embracing that in everything. We now have, not only do we have ethnic studies, which people don't know what that is, but ethnic studies, I've told you guys in this group, not only do we have ethnic studies, but we also have racially ethnic math coming in. That comes in 2025. All of this stuff is victimhood, victimhood, victimhood. It literally says in the math factions, sorry, I promise I'll wind down, but it literally says in the math factions that if you are a cop, you're a bad guy, and all of these groups are victims. We are intentionally dividing people. It's far worse than I've ever experienced. Growing up, I think I heard the N-word maybe a handful of times. I had a foster mom who used it on me once. I've heard a few other people who've said it. I had a person in high school who wouldn't drink out of the same water fountain as me. Those were so few, such few experiences in my 47 years on this planet. Now sometimes you sit and you go, what in the world? I've been trying to stop these poor Utah kids from being turned into racists by bad leftist policy, because getting rid of DEI is only getting rid of division, exclusion, and ideology. I get asked regularly, come and go to this camp, teach these kids about a Black slave, by conservatives, by Republicans, by senators. They're the ones who are saying, please come and tell this story. And these guys are like, no. If the story is about a successful person who wasn't liberation, burn it all down, we don't want to hear the story.
Well, your story is about Harriet Tubman. I want to throw that in there.
I tell more.
And Harriet Tubman was a liberation, burn it all down. She illegally carried a pistol. I love Harriet Tubman. She said, screw it all. She carried a pistol. There is a dark side to Harriet Tubman. If she was trying to free you and you slowed her down,
she would
plenty of times.
She did not actually kill. She would threaten to kill.
I heard she actually killed 2 people that slowed her down. That
I've been playing
that she had a group and they threatened to run back.
Okay, yeah, we're getting her sidelined here.
Yes.
But
Harriet Tubman was awesome. And she was hardcore. She does
an excellent Harriet Tubman. And I think that you move kids so much when you do that. And yeah, history is messy. We've got scars and all. But if we don't talk about our scars.
But conservatives aren't saying get it out. That's not what they're saying. They're saying stop with the burn it all down. Stop with the hate America nonsense. Stop. We don't want to become the UK. Right. We don't want to become Ireland. We don't want to become those things. Stop with that. And let's try to find a way to unify. And maybe we can find it. I'm sitting here listening to Katie and I'm like, oh, this is a Democrat I don't despise. So, I mean, that's something.
She's easy to like.
Something.
Well, and Nathaniel's easy also. And I've found with every time I've talked to any Democrat, I don't have any Democrat I don't like for their Democrat policies, just like there's a couple of Republicans I don't like, but that's not for their Republican. I find the Democrat policies remind me of why Ronald Reagan became a Republican. And that's because the Democrat policies mirror the policies that the Bolsheviks used. If you study history and you watch what the Democrats preach and do, it scares you because you recognize on the other side of that revolution is the ultimate in mass murder and always has been.
Yes.
No one's killed like Mao.
Right.
Pol Pot actually beats Mao if you go by the size of the population he worked with. He's the only one if you go per capita. Other than that, no one touches Mao. No one.
Yeah.
You know.
Can I read a comment?
Yeah.
So Fred says, black currency has been overspent. I don't see that young males on a large scale are racist. I do see that in their rebellious years, young white males are rejecting communist practices that their parents have been tolerant with.
Agreed.
That's a really good point. I know that during the election, a lot of young males felt like, especially on college campuses, they felt like there's no party for me.
Yes.
I'm not uber conservative like my parents, and I don't want boys in sports. I don't want open borders. I don't know where I fit. And they would go back to their childhood values and their childhood and how things were. And they would that's what got them to be introduced to maybe voting Republican in this election. But a lot of young people came out for the Republican ticket. And I think that is it. We've got a generation of families, I think the millennials.
Well, right now, the new generation coming in leans more conservative. And then how do you talk about this?
I'm talking about the parents of these kids are millennials, right?
Weak. That's what it comes down to.
But this new generation, for the first time in 50 years, leans conservative.
Yes.
And then you talk about this latest voting group, the largest movement of a ethnic group was the black men into Republicans. And I argue that was probably the feminization of schools.
The curiosity will be can they retain it?
And that is a good question. And I doubt it.
Because we're seeing this at large right now. It's like with Biden, right? Like he got the young people vote because there was a promise of student loan forgiveness, right? That was a big thing. Couldn't deliver. And that's where we fell short as Democrats, was with the young people because of that lack of delivering. And I think with these young kids, it'll be very curious to see next year with midterms to see what happens, because kids don't care about
what was the promise that brought all the young black men over? No, the youth are leaning conservative.
You mean like for
Trump? The youth are leaning conservative. They're also more religious than their parents. The first time in history. But what brought all the young black men over, do you think, to the Republican?
To the Republican Party, I think a large of it is, from my perspective, I think a large of it is the moral alignment. And I think some of it too is the rebellion. You know, I mean, black women tend to be the backbone of the Democratic Party, right? And it's like, are they going that way to be like, hey, mom, forget this? Like, is it a rebellion thing? Or is it like a, hey, we've had these life experiences and we've seen, like Carrie has, where it's like the Democratic Party doesn't treat me right, and I'm going to go to the Republican side? Like, that would be a fair analysis if that was their concerns, that they hadn't been treated properly by the Dems. You know?
Yeah, I'm excited to see how that'd be a great thing to watch for, you know, in 2 years and in 4 years, where these movements go. If they retain all those young black men, that may be something wild to see. That could be either they're in that cultural wave, like we've got a cultural shift. We've had them before in this nation. You read about it. The Republicans at one time was the inner city party and the party of atheists at the turn of the last century.
What happened to you all?
It's wild, right?
The Democrat Party was the party of the KKK.
Where did the progressives come out of the Republican Party?
But read his comment.
Well, we gotta go through all these comments. Look at that. And Jordan, okay. Jordan, on last week's show when Holly did it, Holly doesn't know how to open up YouTube and read comments. She apologizes deeply.
YouTube. I checked and I didn't see it.
During the time, you have to read it while you're live.
I wasn't producing.
I know.
I was hosting the show.
Holly
by
doesn't
myself.
know how to open up YouTube.
I'm sorry, Jordan.
So I did read them, but I'm going to try to compile them and get them to her so she can get them on to Rob. And if you have any questions, what have you. But Jordan says,
Jordan, if you're on Facebook, reach out to Rob Axson, Robert Axson, AXSON, or go to his website, robaxson.com, AXSON. And that's where he will answer your questions. You can call him. Everything's listed there.
All right. So Jordan says, hey, everyone, what would people from the two parties say to independent voters and libertarian voters? My brother has been divorced. And we're talking about the circumstances of divorce when we first kicked off about
saying how it's cheaper to not pay a lawyer
to find
go
a
to
mediation. If you can work it out without mediation, that's honestly 1,000% better.
Yeah,
actually,
but most divorces, people aren't in a mindset to work it out.
That's when you're hating each other and you want to punish each other. He says, my brother left Utah because the housing market is insane. Social media for the big influencers is about views and clicks. Yes, our housing market's insane because of water, and we don't build as many houses as we need to for growth.
We have a population that is,
We've got a growth surge. Also, this is going to be something that's uncomfortable for you Democrats, but listen up. You can't have open borders and a restrictive housing market. You cannot. Drink it in, folks. You can't put that much pressure on housing and expect a good outcome. Why has housing gone even more crazy in the last 4 years? Open borders.
And bad policy in other states that have driven people to Utah.
Yeah. You mean driven more Californians to New California? Anyways.
I would think the latter is more realistic.
Yeah.
I think Holly's example
that
is more
happened,
realistic
but
of why.
California still has high prices because they have an influx of people from south of the border.
It's true, and they have bad policy.
And they have a way more restrictive housing policy. But anywhere where they have restrictive housing, you've got high house prices. Anywhere. Why was Austin forever and ever for 40 years considered the place to build a house, and houses were dirt cheap? Because they had almost zero regulations on housing there. That's why.
You get a lot of property there too.
The government does one thing. Everyone say it with me. The government only does one thing, and that's turn gold into shit.
All right, go on.
Anyways, okay, it's true. I like the libertarians, and I have the autism spectrum. Perfect match. That's right. And this is all Jordan for the first part. He's showing us his autism. He says, here's the problem with the two parties. They don't know how to have a dialogue. I would rather have my friends vote Libertarian or Green Party. We must have ranked choice voting and cannabis legislation. There's an interesting argument.
Yeah, ranked choice voting is got its own demons. Our county does ranked choice voting for a convention, and I was a huge proponent of it. And then I could see somebody showed me how it could be mastered and what politicians do to get mastered. And then your vote doesn't count if someone masters second place. And that's what they'll campaign to get. They just want your second place vote. I may not be your first. And then what it turns out is that they end up, someone else ends up winning and you didn't even get to vote for them in your top. It's an interesting thing. And I was shown differently. Yeah. And I love ranked choice voting for quick, especially in a convention where we're voting for people and there's not a lot of the race and everything. But you have to also know what you're doing to count ranked choice voting.
Yeah, I don't like
it. It is
math.
hard. It's hard. Math is racist anyway. Math. I think we learned that tonight.
Sure. Math is not my friend.
Mine either.
I don't.
Yep. 3 hots and
stop.
He should get that made as a shirt and sell it as
that's going to be our logo.
Seriously.
3 hots and an eggplant.
That works on so many levels of trying to be, and I wasn't, for those of you at home, please forgive me.
You need to ring
it's
your
all
balls.
the balls and whistles, right?
You need the vote. I will buy the first one. I swear.
Oh my gosh.
One on the front, one on the back.
Exactly. Just make sure you can even proceeds to her therapy sessions after she sees him in public on someone she has no idea who it is.
He says, I need to attend more party conventions just to witness the craziness.
When is your convention, Katie?
17th.
Same day as ours.
Ooh.
The county convention, and then our state convention's May 31st. Ooh. So I was hopeful I could go to the Republican convention, but it's not going to happen. I wish you all the best. I hope it goes smoothly. It doesn't take a long time.
We have a lot of resolutions to vote on, so it will be a long one.
I saw some of them, and I went. It's the same way with us to do resolutions. Our people just don't tend to do it. And so when I saw, it's really cool. People are being involved, but really sucks for time, And so Godspeed to you all voting on
and
that.
It's always taken over by the nerdy, boring people. And I want to just say on part 4 that
Robert's rules.
Anyways,
that's why I don't go to platform committee meetings anymore, because it becomes that we need the period here instead of there. I don't.
Come on. Tell him to get a red Sharpie. No, Jordan says, I'd vote Nathaniel. Yeah. He looks sharp. And he says, He's Spice Girls rock. Yes, they do. I choose not to worry about race. Yes, I agree with Carrie. I don't fit in both extremes. That's a great analogy from Carrie. We need to give everyone a voice. My therapist taught me yesterday how to swallow my words. Therapy is so great, everyone. My therapist, she is so smart. Carrie, Katie, Nathaniel are great people. I wish I can be as great and smart as them. And then Adam shows up. He says, yo, what I miss? You missed it all. Now for the big question. This is the heavy. It's for you, Katie. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. Yeah. You need to take a deep breath.
Oh, gosh.
Katie, Eagles or Steelers? I should visit Pennsylvania for vacation.
Steelers. I grew up north of
I
fly into Pittsburgh. I'm flying into Pittsburgh tomorrow. Also, I don't have
Michigan.
I don't have suction cups on my feet or my hands because those people can climb up greased up poles after games. That is a feat that I have not evolved to as a Western.
You guys haven't seen it. The Philadelphia Eagle fans, in Philadelphia, they will put grease on the poles so that people won't climb them or riot if the Eagles win.
Well, they did it because the Eagles won in 2002 and rioted. So when they went back again,
they won the Super Bowl just a couple years ago.
Yeah, a couple years ago they greased it.
they do it every time. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the NBA, the MLB, the MLB or whoever, the NFL. Like, as soon as they can see like the team's probably going to win, the like city workers are like hurrying up, trying to grease the poles in time, before the game ends. It's wild. And I felt so bad.
They still climb.
That's why I said they have suction cups on their hand. They have
that's dedication
to the point.
I can't imagine burning my city to the ground because we won a game.
I'm sure that wasn't the goal. Or if we
lost a game. Like, but mob mentality takes over, and all of a sudden people are just like, hey, throw that brick that suddenly appeared over there on that pallet.
I will say it on record, if Toronto wins the Stanley Cup this year, the Maple Leafs, I think Toronto is going to burn their city.
Canada's
it's so bad. Like, they haven't won anything since the 60s.
Canada's going sideways too. Anyways, Adam says conservatism is the new counterculture. Kids rebel against the system by being conservative, and it is 100%. It's a counterculture because what is taught in the schools, the colleges, the churches, in the houses of power, the progressivism is taught. And so conservative will be the counterculture. Right now, you're going to see like, you had the hippies of the 60s. You're going to see like, it's going to be, what's that guy who shakes a lot? Was in
Michael J. Fox.
Bingo. Remember that TV show he's in, the Reagan
Family
teen?
Ties.
That is going to slowly mold its way in. That's going to be the rebellious type. Like right now, the in thing is to put a lot of metal in your face and get tattoos everywhere, right? The weirdos are the guys who don't have tattoos and holes in their face.
Yeah, and I guess like living in Utah, I don't see many people with like men with piercings.
Not many.
Or tattoos. So that's
hold on. That's a bit tattoos. That's prevalent.
In about 100 years,
but I'm in Utah
so
County.
Many old people with tattoos and boob jobs.
I'm pro boob jobs, but I like being a breast cancer survivor. It's very important to us. We do need that.
Yes, it is.
Don't take away those.
No, but I mean, it's like it's something that this new age, like we don't look like what our parents looked like when we were our age. We haven't decided that, because I'm in my 40s, I'm going to get a real short haircut and I'm going to wear little suits. And I mean, we didn't age the way our parents did. I mean, the Golden Girls were just a few years older than I am. And yet they looked like they were 20 years older, 30 years older.
Well, it's like the one television show that's on Hulu. It's like Mormon Lives or something like that.
Mormon Wives.
And I look at some of them and I go, oh my God, you look much older than you actually are. And that's a wee bit concerning to me because it's like, what have you done like to yourself and to your skin?
To clown face, ladies.
And I'm not like a beauty by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I am in sweatpants right now. Like, not my thing. But like it becomes quite concerning, I think, sometimes how these young people present themselves, sometimes much older than they actually are. And that's a wee bit.
But this is, where we're swinging the pendulum. We are a different type of grandparent. We're a different type of parent. And I think that we are getting back to more conservative values. And I think COVID did that to a lot of people because they got to see their rights get taken away by a government that's not supposed to be able to have that option. And we got to see our kids not be educated the way that we were accustomed. So I think that, and a lot of our kids are still battling the effects of what happened during COVID. And mentally, that was just a roller coaster ride for them, especially the ones that my kids' age, where it's the pinnacle of their social existence. All of a sudden, they're at home learning on a screen, and kids fall through the cracks with that. Fred actually mentions kids saying, "I'm praying for the youth of America. May God be with them and guide them," because that's the culture they're living in now. I'm not surprised they're turning to God and to faith and to, you know,
it's an act of rebellion. How crazy is that?
As an act of rebellion.
I'm going Christian to rebel.
I think they're also just a lot.
It all over the nation in times of this, where you've said
it happens over and over
keeps
again,
going back and forth.
But this is, I think, a little bit different, because I think that what we've given this generation, for good or for bad, is they're a lot less trusting.
Yes.
That's what I think is where we're at. So
sure, but the youth of the 60s were the same way. Their pendulum just swung them into hippie,
technology,
progressive, and then you had the bohemian movement of the 50s. You had all these movements, the flapper girls. That's another part of one of these swings. That's another
has changed the game.
Sure, but
because now
I think weak parents, you guys. I think weak parents. I think that having kids have to reach out to random people and say, "Will you help me?" has been a really hard thing for kids. And I think that parents have been afraid. They're not bad, but they've been like, everything I do, I keep my mouth shut. I keep my head down because I want to be able to provide for my family.
Well, I mean, okay, so the CIA got involved with the feminist movement so that they could get the mothers into the workforce. So they won on two fronts. They got twice the taxes back, and they got to take the kids. Where's the loss for the government in that? Remember, folks, say it with me. What does the government do?
Turns
gold into shit. Only has one job.
Exactly.
Only has one job.
Look at it. I mean, the thing that you're talking about, and fear and not mistrust. I mean, we've got a media that feeds on fear porn, and that media got huge after 9/11 because they became 24-hour news cycles, and the more and more news, if it bleeds, it
got
leads.
Big after OJ,
and it got bigger after OJ. It gets all these TLC shows that are just crazy. People are feeding off this reality TV that is just insane, and it's like now with technology, these kids can reach out and meet people all over the state that think like them, and whether it's good or bad, they can find the trouble they want to find. And and then they get famous if they record it, and they become viral, and then I'm going to be a YouTuber. It's all stranger than fiction, because it's this stuff. Munchausen by proxy is famous right now on TikTok. If you see the mothers who are keeping their kids sick or who are filming their children constantly for views, and they know their number one followers are men, and these men are not only just following, but they're saving videos of their 3-year-old child,
watched it in their underwear,
inappropriate situations.
Well, it's also like people faking illnesses. That's a big thing we see. Myself in the disability community is like people who will tell you things. Like there was that big, I think it was on Netflix, where like this lady faked having cancer and like sold people in Australia. And it's like we see that at large, happening and it sucks because like it's really hard. Because like I don't want to question you that you're actually disabled when we're having a conversation, but it's like, do I have to? Like I don't want to be that person.
You want to donate to someone that you've been told is suffering with the cancer like you have, and you want to give your dollars, and yet you come to find out that this person lied, and that shatters your trust.
Yep. Right. Cause like that's the hardest thing for me, and like why I'm personally not, started this GoFundMe and all those, like why I don't donate to them unless it's like someone I know, because I'm afraid I worked hard for my money. I'm not going to give it to someone who genuinely doesn't.
Not just that, but give it to someone who's possibly damaging other people who can truly need it through their lives, through causing distrust.
Yeah, that woman wrote books about how to beat cancer using food, and how many people bought her book? How many people?
Is that what the guy of Apple did? Old what's his name when he got?
Oh, Steve, he was gone. Steve had it bad, though. There was no Steve.
You mean cancer had Steve?
There was another woman also from Australia that had her kids, and she was making them sick. And she became a viral sensation, and people were watching and TikTok was paying her. And I don't know if her husband knew or not, but they essentially thought it was a genetic disorder that all the kids had. And they've come to find out she was making them sick. And in this day and age, Munchausen by proxy is alive and well because of the technology. I mean, look at all the people that do TikTok live, just filming their lives. And it's like, who is watching this garbage?
Well, and there's also a high amount of people on TikTok that are making diagnosis, and then everyone's like, I have ADHD, or I have PTSD, or I'm autistic. And it's like, have you seen a doctor, a medical doctor that can say, yes, you have this, and this is what we're going to do? I
want to make some stuff up
that's
then.
The thing that gets my goats. I have to go, though.
Katie, thank you so much. Everyone, Katie's running to be the secretary of the Democrat Party here in the great state of Utah. If you are a Democrat, you said it was on the 17th?
31st.
No, that's for my county. So it's on the 31st. So your state delegate.
Get your happy butt down there.
We're at Ogden High this year. God, you had me on a minute because I was like, no, we're at Ogden High this year. So if you're... I think we're starting at.
Will there be a reception first where people can come meet you beforehand?
Some hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, I have a booth. I bought a booth, and I'm gonna have my campaign staff there manning it while I go run around and meet.
Chase her down. She's a wonderful lady.
Is it 8 p.m. or 8 a.m.?
I try.
Okay, so May 31st, Democrats, go and meet Katie at Ogden High School at 8 a.m. and get to know her. She's running to be your state party secretary, and she's good people.
She is. And she's wonderful. And if you want to donate your time, money, anything to the what's the cancer organization? The
American Cancer Society. Yeah, Cancer Action Network.
Yes.
Yeah, we do a lot. Right now, it's been crazy.
Katie does all that, and she's a great resource. She is outstanding. I am honored to call her my friend.
Same here. Same.
You're so amazing.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. I try to be the level-headed liberal.
I know. I try to bring you on to be the firebrand Democrat, and you're not.
I don't know. I think she is. I think if you get to know people, I think Democrats aren't the big scary folks you think.
Most of them aren't, and I think it's good. I want to thank you. I wanted to get Democrat voices on here for this show, and we kind of got derailed, but I think,
How did that happen?
It is this show. So,
wonder who was a part of that.
Hey, seriously, you can't keep me focused. I'm that little boy in school who has ants in his pants. But
it's totally
thank you, Katie.
And don't
thank you.
Because I do want to.
Well, we also have
other things.
Also have another video. You out of here, Carrie? You got to go as well.
I don't care. I can go or stay.
Or you can stay. Let's have Katie watch this next video with us. Here, we're going to watch.
You mean Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so I am going to show this next video. This one is that modern wisdom one I talked about. And this one, when he talks, and hopefully it's the right one, it made me think real hard.
Away from our sons and away from our daughters. It's not left or right. I don't have a Republican bone in my body. Get the crazy people who do not understand human development away from our children.
I want to connect this more broadly to the culture wars.
No, that's not the one.
He's been on the show many times.
Anyways,
on a podcast talking about.
That's not the one. But there's one where he says, "What do you think about the boys turning right?" And he says, "Where else are they going to go?" I pulled that one up on the fly, but he's like, where else are they going to go? You told them they're bad. You told them the girls are better. You told them sit down and shut up. You told them your natural inclinations are bad. Don't do it. And then you told all the girls, you're great. You're great. Yep. You're great. And there's this site over there, which, what's that guy's name with the shaved head?
Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate.
Mhm.
I don't like Andrew Tate. It's the stuff he says to me sounds like
bollocks.
Sounds buffoonish to me.
I don't know many boys, and I teach them, and I don't know many boys who like Andrew Tate.
Yeah, but the problem is he's there with a message that when this other side says go away, stay away from us, he's there saying, come on over here. That thing you like to do.
Yeah.
Now you teach.
I honestly,
how old are the boys you teach?
Middle and high school. But I honestly think that I think that he's not to that same level as that adolescence film, but he is of this place where people go, yeah, I don't want that in my life either. Like the boys, honestly, are coming back to a place where like they don't want to date girls who dress promiscuously, or what my son says is low self-esteem girls. Doesn't they're really coming to what I would call a pretty good place there. But
maturity.
One of the things
but what are they going to find if the numbers don't equalize on that? The girls are meeting them at that place. We're going to see further population drop off.
But what the boys are watching, honestly, they're watching Tim Pool. They're watching some of them watch Jordan Peterson. They're watching the guy who Joe Rogan. That's who literally I walk downstairs and I'm listening to my son listen to him. They're watching cartoons like Freedom Tunes. So
Freedom Tunes are funny.
That's where they're at, which is a much better place, I think, than fine. I watched someone in my family go down the road of Andrew Tate and totally bulk up and be like, oh, I'm a man now. And the first time he gets dumped, he's back to being where he was before, right? So this I think is a much better and balanced place. And I think that what's happening is that the people who woke up, for the most part, we're the ones who are saying, no, this is our mission. I will make this my mission to make sure that they don't go off the rails this way or this way.
Right.
And I think there's a lot. That's the one thing that's super encouraging. There's a lot of people who are doing it.
There really is. There's lots of shows, and there's shows on that don't exactly align. There's a show that I watch, Modern Wisdom. That's a really good one. It's a British guy. He's like the handsomest man on the planet. It's really
is it Chris? What's his face? I think.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah, that guy. No one should legally be allowed to look that damn handsome. And then
you settle down.
Have you seen him?
No.
Chris Williamson.
Right?
Am I lying?
Okay. I am never gonna live this down. I love the guy from Peaky Blinders. What's his name?
He's attractive, but I've never seen the show.
Peaky Blinders is going to be a movie pretty soon.
Not Chris Watts. What's his name?
Huh?
Okay, I watch him.
He's okay.
Yeah, he's okay. He's okay.
He's not ugly.
And he's got the Cockney accent, and he's calm spoken. Yeah.
So
but look at the opposite. Oh, go ahead.
You mentioned the show Adolescence. My friend who's a therapist, she was telling me that show is so insightful. And it really stirred her. And I haven't seen it. Is it worth it?
So
because the commercial just looks
So in terms of the acting, it's an amazing film. However, the story is based on a Muslim boy who stabs a girl. But that's not the story that you get. You get the story of a white 14-year-old in a perfectly normal house who's been taught to be toxic through the internet. But that's not where the story comes from.
I guess the writer and director plays the father in the show. Is it a good watch, or is it?
So I've only seen reviews of it. I don't have Netflix, so I've only seen reviews of it. But there's a ton of stuff going on in the UK where they're taking away what's actually happening and replacing it with the 14-year-old boy, the 14-year-old white British boy in his little, British suit, saying that he's the biggest threat. So this is global, how that's happening. But you know what? Here's the opposite, because when you talked about British boys, the opposite, the guy who's supposed to be like Mr. Oh, this is what all Democrat boys should be like, is Prince freaking Harry.
Oh, the one that Meghan Markle stole?
He's such a simp. He's an utter simp. And who would want, I'm sorry, but that's really what that's the idea of a successful, powerful woman got herself nabbed.
Is that what they're posting him up as?
Charming. And what is the case? She doesn't want the man she's got. She wants the bold, strong, I'm a prince, I got money, you're lucky to be on my arm type guy. And yet, yeah, it's such a real life look at girls do want a man that's strong and who's going to stand up for her, but he's also going to be the strength overall for the family. And even if he has to stand up to her,
bingo.
Women want strength in their men.
Yes, yes. And the lie, and I think that's another thing that people are that thankfully young people are starting to stop trusting. Like a lot of guys are starting to see, oh, that's a cluster B personality girl. No, thank you. I'm gonna avoid that.
What does that mean?
Oh, histrionics. Like everything is emotions, constant. But
okay.
And so there's the red pill is that there's so many people who are standing outside going, we're almost off the cliff. We're going to bring these kids back in. And that's the red pill. But the black pill is that all throughout education. And yes, here right now they're talking about doing this stuff in 2025 here. We did not get rid of ethnic studies. We got rid of the commission for it. But ethnic studies is in every standard. So what we're doing here is we can do all the work we want to, but we're sending our kids. We're sending our kids to Rome and to Caesar and hoping they don't come back Romans. That's
and
the black
so they're
pill.
doing it in a sneaky way too. I know with the DEI and with the critical race theory and things, they just call it something else.
Yes, constantly.
And yeah, so we've got to stay on top of that. And I think parents feel really helpless at times because homeschooling is not an option or because a charter is not an option, and they feel helpless. And I know it's a really tough time to be a parent in this climate. I was with last night when we went to the event. I went with Kim Tafidi from the school, the VR
virtual school.
Yeah, Horizon. And my goodness, I'm just so excited about that option for kids and for teachers.
Especially for the underprivileged kids.
Oh, yes. In fact, you guys, if you go to their website, they are almost full and they need you to enroll, and you just have to have a Utah address to enroll in the virtual charter. And it's absolutely awesome. They're almost full, but they want to get all the way full. So go to virtualhorizon.org.
I am pulling it up right now. Going to share it. Yes.
Virtualhorizon.org.
Virtualhorizonsvr.org.
Yeah.
Go check it out. If you want to get your kids in there, get them a different opportunity. I think this can also be like they've got an add-on program, but especially, I don't know what our reach is like down in the Four Corners and that. If you are in an underserviced school,
on a reservation,
yes, or even just one of them really small schools, look into it, see what they can offer. The ladies who run it they come at this apolitically. They really just
it's about kids and
Yep.
and good curriculum, and they are different. They vote differently, but their values are the same. And go back to one of our shows that was in the past about last month called Ready Student One.
Ready Student One.
It's such a great interview, and I'm so
I
excited
think I
about their
changed the
program.
name though, but maybe I don't know. I go in and play with stuff later.
Highly recommend watch that video. And if you are a parent feeling helpless and feel like your kid doesn't fit in the school structure they're in, or if
you're a homeschool parent, you might be able to find an option for that awesome math class or a history class. Something. I mean, you go through the website, and like the one they showed us about natural history, where you've got them goggles on and you're walking next to the giant shark thing. And
so they are going to be at our Patriot Camp this year and going to do a lesson at the camp. And Patriot Camp starts June 2nd at Patriot Camps of America, the Tooele Valley Patriot Camp. I'm not sure if we're sold out or not, but it's absolutely an amazing experience. And Carrie has been a part of that experience and helping it build for us, and to share Harriet Tubman's story. And
I'm coming this year. I'm doing Elizabeth Freeman. Yeah.
Awesome.
Elizabeth Freeman. Okay. I don't know anything about her, so
she's such an amazing storyteller.
Harriet Tubman. Well, I'm sure I know she is. Harriet Tubman is one of my personal heroes. Like, she really is, because she didn't care. She was bold. She was brash. Carried an illegal gun. Snuck into plantations to free people. I mean, she was like
but
special
she
forces.
Only freed. She did not, like, people want to say she freed 1,000 people. She did not. She could only free the people she could trust.
Oh yeah.
This is a huge thing that I try to hit. And I always tell the people, just because someone looked like me does not mean that you could trust them.
Right.
Right.
And her life was at stake.
And she also was a woman of faith. She was. And that's something that people strip out of her story all the time. But she was a woman of faith. But even when I hit it, some people get mad because she did not love the New Testament at all. She was old hardcore. God, Moses. It was about Moses. She loved the fact that Moses let his people go. And that was like her obsession. But she did not love, because the slaves, they were taught slaves obey your master. So we probably have a connection, because I wouldn't be about that either. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a reason that the New Testament took on with the slave class in ancient Rome.
Patriot Camp. Go to Patriot Camps of America and look for that. If you live in the Tooele County area, it is for a week from the 2nd through the 6th, and it will be at UMC. They are a proud sponsor of the camp, and we would not have it without them and the incredible volunteers that make up our Patriot Camp. This
one looks like it's a different one.
Yeah. Anyway, check it out. Look it up. Google it. Just put Tooele Valley. And then right now, if you are looking for a car, right now is the time to go to Ken Garf Nissan downtown Salt Lake, where you can get any brand new Nissan or most types of used cars. And the best thing about them is they can beat pricing anywhere. They're giving employee pricing to you. If you mention Jared and myself or political head trauma, you go there, you ask for Sam or Michael, say, I heard Holly talk about political head trauma about where I can get the best financing deals and the lowest financing through Nissan and get employee pricing. They take your trade. They'll give you the best price on your trade, and go down there and mention us, and they will give you their employee discount pricing. So this is huge. If you're looking for a car, at least check them out and compare, and get down there, drive the vehicle you want, get down there, tell them what year you want, what color you want, how many miles you want, and let them go to work to find that vehicle for you. It's at Ken Garf Nissan downtown. It's right out there in West Temple. It's a great dealership. They can find most used cars for you, but the brand new Nissans they have there, mention the show for the discount.
And they can also service your vehicle and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to have my 69 Charger service there pretty soon.
Nice. And that's I think that's it, right?
Jordan
Ken
says,
oh, and I
thanks
also
for the show, guys.
Yes, you're very welcome. I have one more mention in my mentions.
I've got one more too.
Okay. All right. So you remember Sharon Kuslaka? She's mentioning let me do the sharing action. Okay, so we got the Liberty United Festival, preserving freedom, faith, and family. That's 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. on May 24th at the Lehigh Olympic Park.
Oh, fun.
Yes, so I'm going to try to make it if I can. It looks like this guy here that dressed up like Abe Lincoln, he shared a plane with us to D.C. when me and Katie went back there for the inauguration.
Many a convention,
and he does a good job. He, like when you chat with him in there, he dresses like him on the airplane, and he stays in character. He's outstanding. But yeah, they've got Robert Brown, Trent Staggs, a few more people, bouncy houses,
country
special
singer,
programs.
Derek Johnson.
Yeah, so that's the Liberty United Festival. So everyone, get down there. That's on the 24th, 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. at the Lehigh Olympic Park. That's 2700 West Parkside Drive, Lehigh, Utah.
So, Carrie, last night at that event, the woman stood up and said she's from Natsbury Park or something like that. And I'm from Stansbury Park, and I don't know her. But
wait, the woman who stood the main speaker?
No, the woman in the beginning when she was saying, I'm from Natsville or something. And I laughed. And she goes, I'm from Stansbury Park. Oh my goodness. I am a magnet for gnats and mosquitoes.
You got to stay out of the sun,
I've got
guys.
bites all over me, but my husband doesn't get bit at all. And my daughter doesn't get bit at all, but my son and I get bit like crazy. So it's gnat season right now in Stansbury. And that just means that right around the corner, it's going to be mosquito season. So if you live by a body of water, you know all too well what I'm talking about. Go to the website, MOS Shield. MOS Shield stands for Mosquito Shield. And you can, where are you at? I was on Google. Mosquitoshield.com, and contact Dustin over there at mosquitoshield.com and let him know if you're in Tooele County area or North Salt Lake, Farmington. Let him know that you want an estimate, and he can actually help you control the mosquitoes going on in your backyard so that you get to enjoy your backyard. He's already had a couple clients in Stansbury, so he's putting it in their route, Stansbury, Lake Point. So if you are in that area and you would like to have a bid, get in touch with Dustin at Mosquito Shield and let him know that you saw this ad on our show, and he will take good care of you. He's awesome.
They do perimeter pest control, tick control, mosquito control is in their name. They can also do like special events if you're having a family reunion somewhere and you want to have them to go through and just kind of make it so that for that weekend you've got a bug-free environment. So check them out. Go on there. All right. Well, that's show. Anything you want to close with there?
Yes, let's talk. Tell us about your Mothers of America.
Yes.
Moms for America.
Moms for America. Mm-hmm. And what's going on with you? And is there any way that people can get involved with you?
Yeah, we do have a website, but it's still in the process. So we have a few things. One of the things that we're going to start doing is making short clips on what's happening in education. Mostly for Instagram, but we want people to understand things like, so this is Moms for America. We're Utah Moms for America. We're the Utah version of them. But our goal is first to inform parents. The second thing that we want to do, we're having one page created called Schools in Session, where we'll share when I do interviews like this, but more importantly, those small things. And we also want to celebrate when schools get it right, because there are things like, people think I'm super anti-public school, but my son is in the public school. So there are things that I can support, but I think that if we had more transparency, and also if parents knew what they were looking at, because if you ask your kid, how was math today? And they just say good, you don't know what you don't understand that they're getting this equitable math stuff, right? So, and then the other thing that we do is we foster civic engagement, and we do have like a whole homeschool curriculum. We partner, we're kind of like, our aim is to be the younger version of the Eagle Forum, just to bring all of these groups together and really to kind of heal the heart. So I'll say this, and then I promise to finish. But when we were at that Braver Angels thing, I met a trans man, and I know that when I was first talking to him, I probably said some things that he did not like. But as well, first off, even that, right? Because this is a biological female. But as we were talking, I found myself going, huh, I would not. If this person came out of my bathroom, a biological female, I would be, I don't know if I'd be troubled, but I would wonder about that, right? And so I thought, I've got to rethink things. And I think that that's something that we all need to do if we want to cool down the temperature. It does not mean that you compromise your own values, but I do think that we need to be willing to have conversations and be willing to realize that even with people, even as a diehard conservative, there may be 20% of things that I can work together with someone on the other side, because we both agree that maybe, transitioning children isn't a good idea.
Oh yeah.
And like those are the kind of things that I'm thinking, where do we find that common ground so that we cannot blow up America? Maybe that is open borders. Maybe there are some Democrats who go, whoa, we should be careful with these open border ideas. And so we want to have those kind of conversations across
That's Fetterman
state.
right now.
That's our goal.
With a trans male, I get the same.
Does that mean a girl
feeling.
that becomes a boy?
Yeah, I get that. A part of me, I mean, I have empathy for these folks. I really, really do. And I know most people do, because I'm thinking of, if she came out of the bathroom, part of me wants her in my bathroom because I'm afraid for her in the other bathroom. It doesn't work both ways, because it's not the same when a man is transitioning to a woman, because he still has the strength and usually the size. Unlike a woman transitioning to a man, I still have fear for her walking into a bathroom or a locker room.
Yeah.
I'm worried. But then I also worry about women or trans women walking into a locker room or a restroom and having a parent or a husband of a child and a wife in that restroom. I worry about their safety.
Right.
For me,
but you can't, if you go with the male issue, then you do have an issue of civil rights, I think, at that point. So it becomes a huge problem. And I think that those conversations are worth having. Again, not worth compromising, but worth going, let's think about this, because we're saying that we want them in the biological thing. But the thing is like the person that I met, I had no idea.
Right. And nobody should be checking. I mean, that's terrible. To think that we have to have proof, like that to me is...
The guy that hands the towels out has to...
Yeah, see, that to me is a violation. But making a bathroom that is single bathroom makes sense to me. That's a good compromise.
That's exactly where I fall on it. Is
just make them all those family bathrooms.
The people who aren't comfortable with family bathrooms, I think, do have an agenda, because I think the majority of everybody... There are people who aren't. Oh, for
Who's
sure.
not? You get to go in there and you don't have to listen to a guy working on a
It's
heavy
the
next to
trans
you.
activists are saying we don't need a special bathroom.
The autogynephile, the man who literally gets off and putting on women's clothes, doesn't have any kind of surgery done, and just wears the clothes and loves to stand in physical thing and say,
Like
"Oh
likes
yeah,
to shock people.
You try to stop me from coming in your bathroom, and it'll
Like
be the last thing you ever
that
do,"
guy
right?
up in Canada that wanted the lady to wax it. What was that, John?
So autogynephilia is a real thing. It is a real thing, and oftentimes it's developed from a porn addiction. But that's not the case, especially when I'm meeting somebody who's like my age or older, and I'm like, I don't think this is a situation where, I mean, maybe we're actually going to have a few conversations because we found out.
I think that'd be a good one to have.
Yeah.
To have I would trust it to have someone who's deep in the conservative thing and someone who's deep in the transitioning thing, and have you guys come together and whittle out issues there. And then we just say, hey, look, these are issues we come up. We can live with these. Maybe you could go and preach the pro-trans issues to your group, and they can go and preach the pro-conservative issues to their group.
So I don't think I would ever say pro-trans, but I would say pro-empathy, but not in the situation where a bunch of kids are coming into the bathroom with a quote unquote trans kid who's probably just a kid who's found out that this is the best way to get attention in school. Sorry to be blunt, but that is
I get that. Now I am big into those family bathrooms because it's a lot more peaceful to do your business without having to hear someone struggle with Taco Bell. You know?
Yeah, I can agree.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah. So anyways, we're a normal group of moms. We most of us used to be the PTA moms, right? But we've been turned into somehow we're considered something that we're not. We are just moms interested in protecting our kids. And we we are the largest support group for conservative women. And so if you've been out there and you feel like, you know, the world has kind of told you that your values, your ideas, everything doesn't exist anymore, then we would hope you'll reach out to us because we're growing across the state. I'm going to Cache County next. I'm going to Cache County on the 17th. I'm not a state delegate. And so I'm going to speak with a group there. I've been to South St. George, and we're just trying to find the common sense people who want to lead with heart and who are mothers, whether they're mothers biologically or whether they're mothers who could never have children, but they have that heart. We need them.
We do. And I think Glenn Beck actually said that the Mothers for America is one of the greatest organizations in the world because the mother is the heart of the nation, the heart of the family, and it's so important that women support each other because motherhood is difficult, but it's times 10 in this climate, and we're raising the future. And that's a lot to be responsible for. And it's hard to know what's right and wrong in a climate like we're in. And we don't want to ruin our kids. At the same time, we need to instill the morals. We need to be the little voice in their head that they hear when they're, their conscience, for example, what's right and wrong. And it's a beautiful thing. I don't know. Have you done anything out in Tooele County?
Not yet. So I was asked, I think last week, to come out for your festival or for your camp. And she said I can speak for a few minutes to the moms out there, but I absolutely want to come out to Tooele County. My goal is to get, this year is just about getting that recognition across the state and getting these groups started. And then next year we'll be able to, in a political season, I think we'll be able to get a lot more done in terms of advocacy. You guys, a couple of weeks ago, I was with the conservative school board members, senators, and legislators, and everybody was talking about how we reverse a policy that I can't say what it is, but it needs to be reversed because it is in law, and it's a huge problem when it comes to our kids. And just being able to have that seat at the table, which a lot of people say, oh, that's a traitor word, but it's not a traitor word. Because, again, I'm not compromising my values. I need to know what they're thinking. And especially just because we're conservative, just because we're Republican doesn't mean we have all the answers, right? So you can sit with somebody and they can say something. And because I have 4 years, I'm pretty much a walking encyclopedia on this stuff. Because I have those connections on a national level, when they say something that isn't quite right, I can ask for clarification. Okay, so you're talking about wanting to trust the experts in schools, but what are you calling the experts? Because Ibram X. Kendi is debunked, right? So like, but those things matter, and you have to have them clarified. And if you don't sit at the table, there's no clarification.
Nope.
I don't think Ibram X. Kendi was ever bunked. I think he was giving a political message that people with a certain alignment found palatable. So they
but he's now been found a criminal. I mean, he's lost money. He's like, he
embezzled money. Stuff. He spent was it, $15 million and got nothing done. Right.
Well, except that stuff's in our schools now.
In his institute for, those ideas. You got Kendi, you got, what's that lady that wrote White Fragility?
Yep. Robin DiAngelo.
All of them. Yep. Things like that. And I think, whenever I see instances like this, I don't know, maybe I'm not apathetic. I feel like sometimes I sit outside because my mind, whenever I see something, my mind automatically goes, oh, when has things like this happened in history? Mm-hmm. So like, the silver movement was a great big movement. It's happening
to your kids, though. That's
a populist movement. Well, my kid's 30.
You know what she means.
But it is happening to the kids. But it did happen to the kids then as well. Damaging
things. On steroids, though. Because technology has made it.
But wouldn't you have stopped it? Didn't you ever watch some Nazi movie going, I would have hit Anne Frank. So when
everyone says that.
But yes. But now's the time to literally do it.
Yep.
And that's true.
How it ends.
But I don't know. And you're right. And I am wrong for treating life like a voyeur. Because honestly, I do. I look at it and I just go, what historically matches this, Right. And I look, okay, what brought him out of that? And they will be brought out of it they'll naturally be brought out of it. And it'll usually be a young man rebellion that brings them out of it. And hopefully this will be a soft one, if not.
Or Islam.
Yeah.
You're not
there
wrong.
You go.
In Tualatin County, coming out to talk at the Patriot Camp to the mothers, I can tell you this, they are the prime audience because these mothers are, a lot of them are homeschool moms. A lot of them are, hardworking everyday moms, but they just to bring their kid to a Patriot Camp says a lot about their intention for their kids and what they want their kids to know about history. And I know that aligns perfectly with what you're doing for Mothers for America. So let me know also how I can help you if you want to have a meeting out here with moms. We would need a couple of weeks at least to advertise, and you let me know who you would want, but we could invite delegates or we could, go from there. But I think the message is clear that moms, we've got to give them their power back, and we've got to give them their plan, a plan that they feel good about and know they've got support with. And it's okay to want better for your kids than you had. And it's okay. You have to be a really crappy mother because you say no phones, no social media, all of this. Like my kids every day are yelling at me about wanting this and wanting that. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I know you want this, but I'm going to keep you just a little bit longer. 15 and 13.
Okay, mine is 17, and he's already at the place where he's like, "Thanks, Mom." And his teachers regularly, his public school teachers regularly say, "Thanks, what an outstanding kid." And it's because of those things and because of being present there. The last thing I'll say, I know we went way long, but the last thing I'll say is that the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that shapes the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for good or for bad. And Utah has a huge issue of feminist mommies who are shaping the world in their direction too. So, and it becomes an issue.
Utah has more kids too.
It does.
And it's you've got to not give up. And being a parent is hard, and being a good parent is even harder than that. But staying with your husband and in your marriage and giving your kids a safe place to grow up with good role models is so important. And we talk about this all the time on the show, because the family is the most important part of this country, is these families. And keeping the love of country, the love of God and service, and keeping your family together can get a strong family can get through the worst of times and the best of times. And honestly, I think it gives a kid so much security while they're little and growing up in the world, that they can always go home, or they know that they're important. I think just the risks they avoid of drug addiction, of child abuse, of, all kinds of abuses is eliminated just by having a cohesive family unit.
100%.
And it's amazing. I'm a big fan of Dr. Laura. I haven't heard her in a while because I don't have XM radio, but that's been our number one goal is parents, be good parents, stay together, make it work, give your kids role models, because that so much of their adult life is determined by what they see in their home. And as moms, we should be not only the nurturer, but we should be the teacher. And our dads should definitely be the teacher and the role model as well. And while they're little, we should be hugging and giving them all that emotional stuff they need, while dad is giving them the life lessons they need. And I think what you're doing is great. And it's not to say moms are better than dads by any means. It is Mother's Day weekend. So this weekend they are honored.
Happy Mommy's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
All the mommies out there.
But they're both as important.
For sure. That's what we say, is that we're the one organization of women that loves their men.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that.
That's who we are. So
happy Mother's Day to you and to the mothers of America and Utah.
Thank you. Thanks.
And to all the mothers, and to you.
Thank you.
Mother.
Yes.
And to
it's the favorite name I've ever gotten in my whole life.
And to my Katie out there, my mom sadly has passed, but happy Mother's Day to her.
And to my mom.
Yes.
Hi, Cher. I don't know if she's tuned in.
I hope everyone has a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. I hope that it's full of hugs and laughter and joy and flowers and cards and just all positive things.
And cake.
And cake.
I like cake. Hey, it was my hubby's birthday last night.
Yes, he had a birthday.
Birthday, my darling.
Birthday.
Yes, Michael. Happy birthday. Turning what, 28 now,
Yeah.
29.
Mentally, he's like 35.
Good. He's a great dude.
And my birthday's coming up.
Oh yeah. Oh.
At my house, May is my birthday, my husband's birthday, my daughter's birthday, and our anniversary.
Oh my gosh,
that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
But May's my favorite. I love May. It's my favorite month.
All right.
It's a beautiful month.
I think that's the show. Hey,
All
thank you, Carrie.
Yes, Carrie.
It's great to talk to you. We'll reach out again when I find
seeing you.
another subject that's spicy.
Yeah, and keep us in mind if you want to talk about something when your website drops or whatever. Let's have you come on and do Moms for America, and please give your guy all our best.
Yeah, tell Adam hi. Tell him to stay out of trouble.
It's the car business, and when right now it's slow. So if you can make 3 extra sales, you do it. So
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. That is my
Yes.
husband, and we're just waiting for this economy to turn back. And some of Trump's rules and tariffs are going to really help the car industry. And I hope he does it before the year's over, that people can write off their interest on cars.
It's only been a little over 100 days. So I think we need to just chill.
Everybody breathe. Yeah.
Who knows what's happening, but for today, we're still alive. So
And
thank you guys.
It's still better than being under the Biden regime.
Yep.
Well, Kamala. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, darling. You have a
All right,
wonderful
have a good day.
weekend. Happy Mother's Day.
Yep. Happy Mother's Day.
Bye-bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know how to get out and leave.
I can help you out with that. Oh, she found it before I had to get there. All right, everyone. And I just want to update. Had a great weekend shooting.
Yeah, tell me.
The range
What
was
did you
great.
carry?
For the pistol, I had my Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. And for the rifle, I had the Scar L. It was great. A lot of great guys there. I had a guy from Virginia, a guy from Vegas, 2 guys from Idaho.
How'd you do?
It wasn't a competition like that. It was more of different scenarios set up and ran through them. It's got me fired up to do some more stuff with my family. Everyone get out to the range, get shooting.
I bet it was so fun.
It was a real good time. I got hit by a bullet.
A real bullet?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I got shot.
How?
A ricochet off a different range next to us.
No kidding.
Yeah, it hit me in the leg.
Well, I hadn't seen you walk since I got here.
It
hurt?
Didn't do any damage. Just left a little welt. No big deal.
Well, I wanted to talk about something really quickly.
Okay.
I am running for party chair of Tooele County.
Oh,
again,
yes.
And I am hoping to win. And I am running with my friend. His name is Kevin Macho, and he's going to be running as my vice chair. So we're running together.
Have Macho Man as his song when he comes out on stage?
Course. He's in law enforcement, and he's just the best guy. And he lives out in Stansbury Park, and he has been wanting to get involved. And I think, and my friend and Alan, my regular vice chair, has decided that he's going to retire. And I just wish him all the best. But our convention for the public is welcome, state delegates, precinct chairs, vice chairs. You are all welcome. But the big show is for the county delegates. So I ask that you all come to Tooele High School on May 15th, starting at 6 p.m. We'll have a reception where you can walk around and talk to our county electeds, talk to some of our state and federal electeds, and talk to me and talk to other members that are running for the seats. Get to know us, and please don't judge me based on my mistakes tonight with words. I'm so embarrassed, but I do know how to joke and have fun, and I do love this county, and I feel like this is a job that I've been able to give back to my county, and I think it's so important. And I hope that when you're considering voting, if you are voting for a seat like mine in your area, or even the state party seat, the relationships that chairs have to have with electeds is so important. And what she was saying, to have that seat at the table, it doesn't mean you endorse necessarily, but you deserve to have the seat at the table with the electeds because you are the voice of the voter. And that is your job, to be the voice of the voter. And voters aren't the same, but to find that happy medium based on the party's platform. And that is our guide. And if we have that platform and we're sitting at the table with electeds, they're listening, and we're able to understand what's going on in our local government and what we can get back to the voter of what's going on, and make sure they know that there are things that matter to us, to you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take the job lightly, nor do I assume I deserve it. I work really, really hard, in what I do. And I couldn't do any of it without the people who serve with me, or the volunteers who give their time, or my central committee that does our governing body. So this is my little campaign speech, but I would appreciate the support. And I'm so grateful for the people I've met and the situations we've been through. And I do love politics, and it is a labor of love. But I just feel really lucky to live in a well-run county. And I think that has a lot to do with the relationships that we foster with the electeds, and try to hold them accountable, but I also try to keep ourselves informed. And I've been able to do that with this show, and meet every candidate, and meet Democrats, and meet, different guests. I really love it, and I'm grateful for it. So I hope that I win. If I don't, I have no problem with that either. My husband would love for me to
not win,
not be busy.
Yeah,
but
it does keep you on your toes. All right, everyone. I wouldn't
do it if I didn't love it. I wouldn't even bother. But I think we're in such a great place in the county. We're on momentum on the party. And we've got a whole new batch of voters that have just come in this past election. And those voters, they need a place to call home. And I'm ready to make sure that the Republican Party is that home. So I love you all, and we appreciate you. So if you, I know this is a long one, but like this video, interact with it if you would, share it if you like. And, if you'd like to add comments, we read them all, except for the ones you told me Jordan wrote. I never saw them. And I went to YouTube.
You can't read them when they're on the live after.
Oh, they don't post?
Well, they post, but the live comments go away after.
I did not know that. Well, that's why I never found them. Yeah. Jordan, thank you for tuning in. And I'm sorry I missed your
tried capturing them,
comments.
But it was range weekend. I got home at about 11 and had to be back down at the farm at a little after. Well, I had to be back down in Lehigh at a little after 8.
Isn't the farm on in the back way? Man, I bet that was one hell of an experience.
Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, the bullet hit me right here.
That's a flesh wound.
It didn't go through the pants. It wasn't a big deal. Boy, it sure did get Mallory all fired up, though. She was
You're kidding.
Stomping mad.
Mallory got mad?
I told them they need to move that. But anyways, it was a good time.
Ricochet off of?
They were using a car as impediment to target, and I think it hit the car or a plate, something. They were shooting some steel.
Oh.
Things like that. It happens.
I was worried. I'm like, you remember I said, just be careful, pay attention to your surroundings. These type of things make me nervous.
It was fine. It was fine. Okay, we got to get you out of here. Your husband just messaged you. Yeah. Okay, you guys have a good night, good safe weekend.
Thank
Happy
you,
Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
We will be back.